USBC Open Championships. We've got a great live stream for you today. Two very talented teams from the North Carolina area, led by Ryan Whitney, who shot 300 first of 19 at the 2012 event in Baton Rouge, on the way to a second place finish in all events. So we'll have these two great teams in just a minute. Thanks for joining us.
Ladies and gentlemen, photography is not permitted during the tournament competition. National Bowling Stadium, we're ready to begin competition.
Practice is over. There's some practice and details and strategies for you here in a minute. We'll have a rundown of the lineups as well. So thank you all for joining us here on this afternoon broadcast. I have no doubt these teams will not disappoint today. We'll have a special guest in the booth as well as the three games progress. So sit tight and enjoy. Kevin Decker, Matt Ward, Mike Leviner, and Adam Miller. Had some personal experience going against Terry Decker back in the PBA regional days, about a decade ago. These guys certainly know how to get it done, and on before the first frame, number one, Ryan Collins, Chris Hans, Butch Zeller, Kyle Troup, and Ryan Whitney. Ryan Whitney, as I mentioned, rolled one of 19 perfect games at the 2012 event in Baton Rouge, and finished second in all events, and top 10 finishes in singles and doubles as well. Hans, three-time World Team Challenge champion, also a three-time member of the South Region RPI team. Troup, seven-time PBA champion and the 2012-13 South Region Player of the Year. So a lot of talent, and he is the son of Guppy Troup. Familiar name on the PBA, many titles. Well known for his crazy outfits. And as I understand it, Kyle takes after him a little bit, but a little toned down today in their blue apparel jerseys. So these guys look good, ready to roll, and we're ready to bring it to you live. So thank you for joining us once again. This is Matt Canizaro live at the NBS 2014 USBC Open Championship. Aaron Smith is across town today at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. We're just a couple hours away from the start of the 2014 USBC Women's Championship. So a lot of action happening here in the well. So it's happening in bowling in 2014. It's happening in Reno. Check back to bowl.com for all the news and notes from both the USBC Open and Women's Championships as things get underway across town today. Lone lefty on the pair. Zeller gonna have his work cut out for him today. Talked a little bit earlier to Chris Hans to get their strategy. They did have a practice session downstairs on the showcase lanes, the track showcase lanes, and it turns out they needed a little more surface than they expected, and they went in with their game plan, and these guys pretty speed dominant, but their goal is to break them down to the right a little bit, and they had one or two players who were going to stay pretty far right and maybe use a really dull ball up 5-6, the rest of the group around 7-8. And the plan is to move left as the day progresses. Some are going to stay right a little bit longer, but simple goal, break them down to the right, create a little bit of room, and they said they had a really good look once they practiced for a while and they started to open up, and they were able to move left and get the ball right to the area they created. So we'll see how that all works out. We'll be here for all three games today, so looking forward to a little bit of excitement here at the National Bowling Stadium. Thanks for joining us. Shot there by Leviner for the double. And once again, Aaron Smith across town today. but we'll have some special guests in the booth, so looking forward to that. The number these guys are chasing is a monster, 35-61, the highest score in tournament history. That was by Motion Plus Lanes of Cudahy, Wisconsin, not too long ago. Had a couple of big scores. 35-14 is currently second. That's PJ Haggerty. David O'Sullivan, led by former junior Team USA member AJ Chapman, had a great run here in his Open Championships debut. And then in third place, 34.99 before it falls off a little bit there. Top 10 right now, 32.80.
This is weird. Oh, I get it.
Right now it's going to be a one-man show, so we'll let the bowling speak for itself. All right, once again, these guys going with a simple game plan in practice and early on. Break them down to the right and then creep left. They got one left-hander. That is Butch Zeller. And the two-hander, Kyle Troup. So many different styles here represented. Nice break there for Leviner for 3 in a row. Good start to his 2014 team event. This is his third tournament appearance. Career average 196.9. He started in Baton Rouge in 2012. Made it here to the NBS in 2013. Kyle Troup clean through 3. Still strikeless here, the 2012-13 PBA South Region Player of the Year. Troup making just his second Open Championships appearance. Shot 1943 last year. First shot by Whitney. Again, Whitney 300 in 2012, the first of 19. And went on to finish second in regular all events, 7th in singles, and 9th in doubles with Chris Hahn. So a breakout year for him that year, 2170 all events total. His career average here through 6 tournaments, 211.9. Jerry Decker having a rough start here. Pair opens already. And looking at a third one here in the 4th frame.
I'll remember how much.
Decker gets just 1. He's at 42 through 4. See if the rest of the team can pick him up. Break there for Hans. Gets the 10 to go late for a 4-bagger. So he promised to put on a show today. Very appreciative of being showcased here on the live stream. So vowed not to disappoint. First strike of the day for Ward in the 4th frame. Kyle Troup on the board as well. Enjoy some bowling. We'll have some special guests on during the afternoon. We appreciate everybody being here. This is Matt Canizar live at the MBS.
So I can say hey anytime I want.
Hey, loosen your swing up, bro. You gotta move.
I know, but I gotta wait till this beer talk. Now we gotta do the announcing part. Give me the headset. Oh, I got it. I have no idea. I didn't see it. Well, it was all that came out like this.
Stick the freshies here and you guys can find it.
Further. I think that's a good idea. Hi, guys. We got a fresh 5. Mine was sitting right here. That's why. This is yours. Oh, okay. Yes, yours. These two. I'll put mine right here for you.
Whoever has to get up there needs to go down one shelf.
Okay. Hey, Adam. Move that beer. Huh? Move the beer. All right.
Thank you.
Too bad.
I think you just stay in the same spot until they're 0. There's probably too much ball now. We're half a game through. That ball's breathing too early and it doesn't have enough down the lane anymore. I would just go to 0. That's a little shell down. It's going to give you a little bit store, but just a little bit. As soon as I see the blank 10. bop that at 7. He bop that at 7.
All right, folks, sorry about that. Just got called away. We got a few things going on here in the venue today. We had a 299 earlier, and we have a 50-year guy on this squad, and, of course, some other great bowlers in and around the venue, along with opening day over at the Women's Championship. So we'll probably be in and out a little bit throughout the day, but looks like these guys threw some strikes while I was away. Mike Leviner and Chris Hans now both working on the front 6, and now for the next little while, we're going to be joined by Team USA assistant head coach Brian O'Keefe. And Brian is in town this weekend to bowl in the 2014 USBC Open Championships. He's been practicing hard, just got done at the BJ, but now he's going to step in and give us some expert advice and analysis here over the next game or two. So, Brian, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Canizaro. How you doing?
I am doing all right. We're glad to have you. Finally, some knowledge in the booth.
You do just fine, young man. You do just fine.
So, well, there's the first thing we can talk about. We've talked about it a lot so far this year. How important spares are here at the Open Championships, and when you're chasing down a number like 35-61, by the way, the highest score in tournament history, certainly you're going to have to throw a lot of strikes, but you can't throw away anything on those spares. So we've seen a lot of pins left behind.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that always comes into play. Any tournament, regardless of scoring pace, you need to be able to make sure that, you know, if you're not knocking them all down on the first shot, you're knocking them all down on the second shot. And, you know, Ryan's a great player. He's actually from the DFW area, so we get to see him quite a bit. And unfortunate that that just happened as we came back talking, but I'm sure he'll bounce back.
Well, there's a few pins left behind there by Chris Hans. A great shot, stones the 9-pin on the front 6. You can't really throw it much better than that. And these guys, again, two very talented teams. I know you probably have some experience bowling against some, or at least a couple of them. Chris Hans for sure in the Brunswick World Team Challenge back in the day.
That's right. I bowled against Chris probably, gosh, I don't know, I'm dating myself, maybe in the late 90s, I would think. So quite a while I've known Chris. Ryan, like I said, being from the DFW area or living in the DFW area, I get to see him every once in a while when I get out to participate. I don't get out to bowl all that much, but when I do, he's usually in attendance. And a few of the other guys, I've heard the names, but not necessarily seen him play. For example, Kyle Troup. Earlier today, my wife Shannon was bowling Bowler's Journal. I took the squad off, and Kyle was bowling. It's the first time I've ever seen him throw it. I've seen the name, but I was unaware that he was a two-handed participant, but, man, he throws it good.
Well, Brian, you have plenty of experience in the two-handed realm, of course. You headed up Project Two Hands here at the International Training and Research Center. Of course, that is your main responsibility, is keep an eye on things, running the ITRC down there at the International Bowling Campus in Arlington, Texas. And one of your projects was to come up with, I guess, some coaching manuals and tips, perhaps, on how to coach two-handed bowling. Of course, it's the next big thing. A lot of two-handed bowlers out there, but not a lot of two-handed coaches. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of how that project turned out for you.
Yeah, that was actually before I was out in the training center. I worked inside in the coaching department, which is now the coaching certification department, I believe, headed by Miss Carolyn Doran-Ballard. And yeah, you know, there's tons of coaching, tons of manuals that we have of the different, you know, bronze level, silver level, gold level, and level 1 coaching certification levels. But, you know, when two-handed started to come on the scene, and not to say it's brand new, there's been a few people who have bowled two-handed for the last 20, 30 years, but not quite to the exposure of Jason Belmonte and Oscar Palermo, who have really kind of brought it on the map. And we kind of knew as a department that, you know, it was going to take off, and a lot of kids were going to do it because they see it on television. So our main goal was to, you know, to see if we could take somebody. Project Two Hands came about. We were taking a traditional player and turning him into a two-handed player. and it was quite interesting. It's not all that simple as what we found out going from a traditional player to a two-handed game, but I believe Kyle has done it his whole life. A lot easier to get your body to get in those positions if you've been doing it since you were 5, 6, 7 years old. I'm sure he's been bowling his whole life with his dad being who he was. But yeah, you know, it's not the same type of game. They're using their body a lot more in a rotary type motion or around their body as opposed to more of a linear type motion that traditional players use. They use their core muscles a lot more and a lot more torque on different parts of their body. So to expect that we could just coach everybody exactly the same and coach them like a traditional player, I think was being a little naive. So we wanted to look into it and look into different methods and see what worked. So with that being said, you know, it's now in all of the coaching certification level how to go about teaching the two-handed player because it is so different. Kyle actually has a lot of traditionalists in his game, you know, in terms of overall body positions and stuff. But the amount of ball speed he creates effortlessly, and he's not a big guy. He's slight of stature, I guess you would say, and he has no problem getting it up there 20 miles per hour with his initial ball speed.
Well, this definitely is a speed-dominant group. That's what Chris Hans told us earlier today. So their goal was to play the lanes a little bit to the right in practice and early on, have a couple guys stay out that way with some dull equipment, and then migrate left. And he felt like they had a pretty good look once they started to break down a little bit. And you know, during their practice session downstairs on the track showcase lanes, during an hour, they were able to get left, and they had some room to the right. They felt pretty comfortable. You know, some of them throwing great shots here in game number 1, and a few struggling to get on board, and of course a few spare miscues as well. But these guys certainly need to settle in if they're going to make a run at that number. 12.69 was shot by Motion Plus Lanes. That was the opener. That was a monster, 4th highest score in history, on the way to 35.61. So you certainly can't fall off pace too quickly, and I know you've been practicing pretty hard as well. I know Ryan Whitney has been at the ITRC trying to get ready as well, taking advantage of some of the things that you guys offer there. But you know, talk about those practice sessions and what's available there, and then we'll get into your own thoughts on this year's event. Yeah,
when USBC and you guys in the tournaments and media decide during the show about releasing the patterns and different stuff like that. And we always put it out, and it's out basically every single day inside the training center. We get a lot of people in the area that come in and want to practice on it. They can rent the lane for the hour and practice on a pattern, or they can split it up and bowl a half hour on the team event pattern, a half hour on singles and doubles, which is great to get people more aware of what they're going to be in for when they come here. Our facility tends to play very similar to how the stadium plays here. The last couple of years since I've been out in the training center and practicing a lot in the training center before I come here to participate. I haven't had to really adjust, more than a board or two with my feet and where I'm targeting when we start. It's been very, very similar. So that's a great advantage for people coming in. And not only that, people will come in and take a lesson and then want to practice afterwards and do that same thing. So you said it, about my practicing habits. The last week I've practiced. Before that, I don't think I touched the ball for a couple of months. We had some busy times in the training center, which is great, but unfortunately that meant my bowling went non-existent, I guess you could say, where I wasn't getting to participate quite as well, or quite as much, and conversely quite as well also. But so this last week I practiced quite a bit, just to see what was going on. I've watched a few of your broadcasts, and I watched for about a game and a half, and I figure at that point, a lot of it's dependent upon what they're doing to the lane. So after that point, I get a glimpse as to how things are breaking down, and from there, kind of develop a game plan for what our group is going to try and do, and then go from there. And what I'm really expecting right now from both of these teams, I'm expecting to see, the group as a whole, the 10 of them, start to put together some strikes. This was the time, the few live streams that I've seen you guys do, where the group started, where the lanes start to transition a little bit, but if anything, they transition in a good way. They're having a game plan and staying to the right a little bit helps out. A little bit lesser volume this year, so that the pattern will tend to break down a little bit quicker. So that little hook area to the right, that little bit of oops area, operator error area, develops to the right, and then the 43 foot of length will create a little bit of hold just because of the length of the pattern. So I think this will be the time we'll start to see the strikes as a whole for the 10 of them start to get a little more consistent.
Well, we have talked a little bit about the pattern here in 2014. 2 different patterns for the second time in history. Last year, 2 different patterns for the first time, but this year, team event, 43 feet, as you mentioned, and the volume almost means, and we talked about their strategy to break them down a little bit to the right, but a lot of teams feel like just given the shape of the pattern and the volume that that's not even necessary. They certainly don't want to go out and attack it with too much surface, of course, burn up the front part of the lane, and then get yourselves in trouble a little bit. But just being 43 feet, traditionally you want to have your break point around 10, 11, 12, and there's a nice rangefinder down lane makes that easy. But you're definitely going to play this a little bit more in, just based on the length. And some folks, they see 43 feet and automatically, you know, they think the ball's never going to hook, so they get out there with the sandpaper and, you know, maybe make it more difficult than it really has to be. But we've seen some teams bowl really well, go out there with without too much surface, and you know, maybe 2,000, 3,000 at most, and just really get comfortable. And we've seen some big scores this year, certainly.
Yeah, generally a good rule of thumb is that the distance of the pattern or the length of the pattern is going to give you a rough estimate as to where you're going to be playing on the lane, where your exit point, break point, whatever you want to call that. In its simplest terms, it's the point farthest away that your ball is ever going to get from the pockets, or the closest to the gutter your ball is ever going to get to the pocket, being known as your break point or exit point. And the volume of oil is basically going to tell you everything else regarding how you're going to attack the pattern, what type of ball you're going to use, how aggressive that ball is going to be, and what surface that ball is going to be. So the 43 feet of oil is going to tell you, like you said, roughly where you want that break point to be. And then the fact that it is a lesser volume of oil for today's standards of lane patterns, you know, a couple of years ago it would have been considered medium to high, but now, you know, it seems like the volume of oil that on the patterns are just higher in general. So it's more of a medium. It's more of a medium volume for today's standards. So because of that, like you said, you don't need a ton of surface to really try and dictate what's going to happen. The other thing I'll say is that, you know, generally because it is a team event and you're trying to establish something and kind of manufacture the lane pattern to your favor and to your liking, is that even though that rule of 31 you know, it says the 43 feet you want to keep that break point somewhere around 12, I would expect that a lot of the better teams have it a little bit farther right than that to start, so that they can migrate to that area and migrate to that 10, 11, 12 break point by the end of this first game and all the way through the second and into the third game. Just so that they don't run out of room and they're not lofting it over the left gutter by the time they're done with this 3-game set.
Well, I think the key to the whole thing is, of course, to go in with a game plan and a strategy, and you know, stick with it, and work together, communicate, you know, regardless of what your strategy is. And we've seen and heard some different ones, and you know, it's obviously what's best for your group and your team. And whether you have the ability to get to a training center like the ITRC or Kegel or the Turbo Center in Michigan, or just your local bowling center, get them to put out the pattern. You know, get a few games on it. If anything, it might not play the same, but it gives you the opportunity to throw shots on a more challenging pattern, so a little less forgivable. Just get yourself ready and in tune, and just going out there to throw good shots and be accurate, and of course make your spares, and then come to the National Bowling Stadium as Mr. O'Keefe did and take advantage of what's available here. First thing, of course, the track showcase lanes. Downstairs, 10 lanes on the ground floor of the MBS, and that's where you'll have the team pattern, 43 feet. You and up to 9 of your teammates can get out there for $125 for the hour, and that's really your first opportunity to get a look inside the venue and the atmosphere here. You know, the altitude, some people say, even is a factor, but to go down there and put your strategy together, really test your equipment and get your game plan ready before you head upstairs to the Open Championships. And of course, the other opportunity that you guys took advantage of earlier is the Storm Bowlers Journal Championships over on the high side of the National Bowling Stadium. This year we have it partitioned off, 64 lanes for the Open Championships, and then 69 through 78 for the Bowlers Journal Championships. And there we have featured the doubles and singles pattern. So if you want to look at that pattern at 40 feet, Same lane surface, obviously, same machine, same oil, just right next door, just the other side of the wall. A great opportunity to really get an idea. But what did you guys see over there today and taking advantage of that? You said you bowled one, sat one out, Shannon bowled one, but I know there's some squads on the fresh, some on the burn, so you get an opportunity to see how they're going to be to start in doubles and singles, and then perhaps how they're going to be after a few games of traffic.
Yeah, generally what we do every year, we have the same routine, I guess you could say. We usually arrive Thursday night. I'll work at the training center all day and then take one of the later flights out to wherever the championships are. And then Friday we spend that bowl in the Bowler's Journal. Like you said, just to kind of get a sense of footing. Testing the approaches here are a big thing as well. Even though they're same type of approaches we have at the training center, they tend to play a little bit differently. Get our feet underneath us a little bit. And being able to bowl on that pattern. I have practiced this week with a few different balls that I thought were going to be pretty good on that pattern. Just seemed to shape the lane the way I like to see it and go through the pins the way all bowlers like to see them. And I would say it was similar to that. We bowled a fresh squad. Lane to lane up there was a little more challenging than I was expecting. One lane hooked quite a bit, the other lane was a little bit tighter. But once again, that happens in every bowling center across America. The topography can be challenging from lane to lane. And then tomorrow we will take our stab at this team event title that we've been looking for the last, myself, 21 straight years. I don't have an eagle. I've come close on a few occasions. I think I have maybe 4 or 5 top 5 finishes in all the different events over my 20-year stay of bowling, but I haven't gotten that illustrious eagle yet. So I think our appointment is set for 1 or 1:30 tomorrow, so we'll come and we'll bowl downstairs in the showcase lanes and just see how things are looking. I think we have a pretty good, we have an experienced group, which really helps. In terms of communication when we're out in the lanes, we communicate, but it may not be to the extent of other teams. We're just 1 or 2 words. Yeah, I moved 2 and 1. I feel like this lane's going. It's starting to break down. Make the adjustment type of thing. So it's more just really quick pointers that we give each other. So we'll do that tomorrow at the showcase lanes, and then make our way out here and hopefully put together a monster number, because it's going to take a monster number.
Well, already 35-61, the highest score in history, leading 32-80 to make the top 10. And once again, this is Matt Canizaro live at the National Bowling Stadium, sitting here with Team USA assistant head coach Brian O'Keefe. And we're watching before the first frame 1 and 2, two talented teams from the North Carolina area, led by Ryan Whitney, who shot 300 at the 2012 event in Baton Rouge, on the way to a second place all events finish, 7th place in singles, and 9th place in doubles. These guys also are in the mix year after year and looking for that first win. And as Brian mentioned, his group, they've been on the live stream a couple of times in recent years and made a couple of runs at team event and team all events. Even had the lead at one point, I believe, and just getting so close, and it's going to happen. And I always look at your group and I laugh a little bit, because I remember interviewing your wife, Shannon O'Keefe, longtime Team USA member back in 2009, and she was just bowling with another group, and she said you'd never let her bowl with you guys.
That's not true.
It was the guys' weekend, and
well, that is true.
and she was going to do her thing, and you do your thing, and it wasn't long after where she was putting up the big numbers and really helping you guys out. And I know now she's a pretty solid part of that group.
Yeah, for sure. When I first started bowling in the mid '90s, I think '94 was my first event in one of the Alabamas. I could always forget if it was Mobile or what was the other one?
It was Mobile in 1994.
And then Huntsville. Huntsville
in '97.
Yeah, so Mobile was my first one. I bowled with some guys from college at the University of Nebraska. It seems like we drove all day. We stayed and bowled, and then we got back in the car and drove all day again. I think we were on the road more than we were actually in Mobile. And then in about 1999, I believe, I got the opportunity to bowl with some players who eventually went on tour, and you'd see on television shows and winning titles. Mike Wolf, Brian Kretzer, Sean Quinn, guys who decided to take their game to the next level, the PBA. And it was just myself and Chris Vialli at that time. Then we brought in Ron Nelson Jr., Bill Webb, and Brian Bogosian was our 5th bowler at that time. And then yeah, it was more of a guys' weekend, a fun weekend. Not that we didn't take it seriously, because we most certainly did, but it was more just a fun type weekend. And Shan always used to be like, well, when am I going to get to bowl? And I was like, well, you know, the guys kind of say, you know, they want it to be a guys thing. So Brian Bogosian ended up splitting ways and found another team to go with. And so we had an open spot, and so I asked the guys, I'm like, hey, what about my wife bowling? And they were like, oh, sure, you know, that's perfect. And I think she bowled like 730 the first year, and then 750 the second year in team event, and just absolutely mashing them and basically carrying us. So it's kind of funny that it started out as, yeah, it's going to be a guys' weekend, and now she's definitely the horse of our team, just throwing up numbers after numbers. You know, she's great on the fresh. That makes a huge difference. And generally, these patterns, you know, have been the medium distance of, you know, 39 to 41 feet, and you know, on the fresh, she's really good at keeping the ball pretty tight up the lane, and just really, she's good all around. But you know, especially on the fresh, when she can keep her target in front of her and just let the back end kind of do what it has to do. And so it's been awesome to bowl with her for these last 5, 6, 7 years, however long it's been.
All right,
yeah, so we've had the opportunity to leave here quite a bit with the lead, you know, over the years. But like you said, never been able to hold on to any of the events.
Well, it seems like you guys bowl particularly well in the high-scoring years, and some folks just bowl a little bit higher. I know you guys made a doubles run there in 2009, where we saw the record score by Stephen and Brenda Padilla, 1566, and you guys weren't far behind.
Yeah, that was pretty ironic, because I worked with Stephen. At the time, I was working with Stephen right in the coaching department, so my office was directly next to his. And Ron and I took the lead with 1460 something, and not too long after, I believe Mike Shady and Mark McDowell came in, and Shady did his typical, I'm going to bowl 2,700 for my 9 games and call it a day, and they beat us. I was like, okay. And then Stephen and Brenda, it was great to see them bowl that well and do that. And yeah, and then we finished 3rd or 4th a couple years ago in Baton Rouge, I think. Actually, when the scores were a little lower that year, but that, once again, Shannon carried us. She bowled 300 the last game and bowled a 760. So.
You guys also on the short list of teams that have bowled 10,000 here at the Open Championships for team all events.
That's cool. Didn't know that.
A big number in that event as well this year, 10,363, almost a record. So it must be a little bit intimidating coming in and looking at those kind of numbers on the leaderboard. But of course, somebody has to win. And you guys bowl at a time when things are starting to pick up here. And we had a great couple of weeks with just some really incredible scores. And certainly you're going to have to work hard to get there. And these guys trying to work hard as well. Ryan Collins, 215. Chris Hans, 257. He started with the front 6 before being stopped by a stone 9-pin. And the left-hander, Butch Zeller, making his spares. Very important here. And just staying around the pocket. And you know, they're not going to open up for him quite as quickly. He looks like he's throwing a blue hammer even. So you're not going to see much breakdown there at all. Chris mentioned earlier that he expected him to be throwing an AMF Cobra, not the original, but the newest one.
The remake,
and then a Motive Venom Toxin. Didn't mention the urethane hammer coming out, but just playing up the lane, staying around the pocket, and making his spares for 193. But it's challenging being the only lefty out there, of course, especially on this Kegel Ice Oil. Of course, Kegel, the official lane maintenance provider here, coming out last year with the ice, just designed to hold up a lot longer. So you're going to see the transition a lot later, and a lot of teams kind of tripped up by that last year, expecting to have to make a move, say, halfway through game 2 or a little bit sooner. But in fact, the move not there. It's just not time for that. The oil holds up until later in game 2, almost game 3. So certainly something you have to consider, especially if you're practicing at home. The difference in the oil, and did you see any difference for you guys with that?
Yes and no. Because we go a little bit later, not that we go late in the tournament, but we go maybe a little before the halfway point. But a lot of good teams have already rolled through here by the time we make it in here, and so we had heard a lot about the ice oil. We didn't have it yet in the training center, contrary to what some people thought. Well, they're over at the USBC they have the ice oil, but we didn't have it either. It wasn't available to the market, and it wasn't available to us, so we were still guessing as well. We didn't get to bowl on it, and I think still with these high-powered bowling balls and having 5 guys on 10 guys, depending on how many lefties you have. You know, kind of having a game plan and trying to burn up a certain part of the lane and have a lane break down the way that they wanted to. You know, the moves still happen for sure, but you know, maybe not quite as drastic like you mentioned, because when you did make that a little adjustment, now you're in that little bit of heavier volume oil that with the viscosity is just a little bit thicker, so you know, the ball wouldn't read quite as much, and it wasn't as you know, it didn't happen quite as fast like you mentioned. But overall, I definitely noticed the difference, but wasn't a drastic difference as what I thought it could have been.
Well, we're all about staying on the cutting edge here at the Open Championships. Of course, the latest and greatest as far as lane oil. Of course, the new Flex Lane machine. Some of the capabilities of that machine. The things it can do with putting out 2 different kinds of oil and all kinds of crazy things. And we had a power outage here actually earlier while you guys were bowling the BJ. And,
yes.
Those machines kept on oiling away. They are cordless and battery operated, so we did not have any kind of delay. So technology really top of the line here at the Open Championships. That's the goal, to really showcase some of the products that are out there, of course, from Kegel. And great events. This live stream broadcast brought to you by Track Bowling Products. And the Track Showcase Lane is a great place to get ready for your team events.
Yeah, those new lane machines, those Flex Lane machines, man, it's amazing the technology and where it's coming from. It's crazy. Different oils in the same machine. You can oil the front half of the lane with ice and the last half with fire, and change different pump speeds throughout it. It's amazing where technology is going. It's great to me. The more technology, the better in terms of, you know, being able to put out whatever type of pattern you want. That's where I think it's really great to. You know, it's a lot different than when I grew up bowling, but you know, you know what you're getting, which in the grand scheme of things with the game of bowling, you know, knowing what you're supposed to get and what you get, that's what matters the most.
Well, at the Open Championships now, a true test of versatility. Of course, the 2 lane conditions, 43 feet for team, 40 feet for double singles. You really got to be ready. Come out and match up in 2 different patterns. You know, we see that at a lot of international events as well, where they'll hit a short and a long, or a medium and a long, and you know, and those guys, they can only bring 6 bowling balls, so they have to change surfaces and do things from day to day to get ready and to handle those various lane conditions. And last year, of course, John Drabinski, the first to handle the 2 conditions in all events, 22-28. Ironically, that is the same number that is on top of the all event standings this year, 22-28. Tim Damrow. You may not have heard of him yet, but now you know who he is. He's part of that Janses HI. They came out and shot 34.99, highest score by 160, and they had the lead in team event for just 1 day. But they've been there before. They've shot some big scores here, and then they came back the next day, averaged 228 in doubles and singles. And Damrow and Joe Jans leading doubles at 13.78. And Damrow 22-28, 778, 704, 746. And of course, they put up the big number in team all events, 10,363, almost a record. So, and they did leave some pins out there. We counted up almost 100 pins and single pins between the 2 days. So that could have been a whole lot more. And again, you got to make great shots. You got to make your spares.
100 pin and single pins left or missed?
Missed. They left the pins out there.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that is good ball reaction and unbelievable bowling. I'm going to run out there. I'm going to throw it out on the edge. I'm going to say that all events total, that team all events total is going to hold up. I mean, the singles and doubles pattern is, let's say, more challenging than the team event pattern. I'm not 100% sure that the team event, even though it's a record and the highest of all time, I'm not convinced that one's going to hold up and win. But that team all events total, that is some unbelievable bowling on the second day. I mean, I just got done bowling, and not that I'm trying to compare myself to some of the best bowlers who are going to be out here, because I'm far from that. But, you know, I just got done bowling with my wife and Ron Nelson, and actually I think I might have been high, and I bowled 629 for the 3 games. So, and that's on the same pattern, and to basically average 34-40 for each set, I guess that would be, to get to 1,300 and some over. That is just some monster striking on the second day. Well, that's going to be really hard to beat. If somebody beats it, they deserve it, that's for sure.
Well, we've seen some big scores over the years, and there's a few that we thought there's no way those were getting beat. And
yeah, exactly. You're right.
You never know. You know, we've seen some great scores in the National Bowling Stadium. Even the highest single game of all time was bowled here.
300?
1281.
Oh, I thought you meant single game.
One pair to our left here on 29 and 30. Jeff Riggles and the crew on the way to the team event title in 2011. And the numbers, of course, just getting higher and higher. Last year, 35-38 took home the team title. That was the highest score, breaking a 20-year-old record. And now 35-61. So these guys, 1095 opener for before the first frame number 1, and 993 for team number 2. Terry Decker, leadoff bowler, struggled a little bit on the way to 168. But as you said, these guys already moving left, and they created some room to the right, and hoping to open the lanes up a little bit and, you know, get those angles right and put up a couple big games here in 2 and 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if that team game may go down this year as well. I haven't bowled on the pattern all that much, but when I have, you know, if the people are doing everything right, you know, and how their ball's matching up with the lane, you can bowl a pretty big score on this team event. And like I said, there's so many variables that it takes a lot for that to happen, but with the talent that's around the country that's going to be coming here, and some of the teams that have been put together over the last 4 or 5 years to go along with the teams that have bowled together for longer than 4 or 5 years, I wouldn't be too surprised to see a 1,300 be thrown out there. I really wouldn't. Well, I know that's a bold statement, but why not?
Tomorrow night, 7 p.m.
Yeah, no, that's right. That would be unbelievable. Yeah, I'm not sure my ball can strike that much. I'd have to be the 220, you know, maybe shoot 225 and let everybody else strike.
Well, those guys last year, Motion Plus Lanes, formerly known as Red Carpet Lanes, they finished last year's event with 1272, the 3rd highest game in history, and came back in this year's opener, 1269, the 4th highest game, and rolled from there. 35-61. Could have been more. Again, we talked about leaving some pins out there, and they had a real good chance at almost 3,600 going into the final frame. And their 4th bowler, unfortunately, 9 spare strike in the 10th, and the anchor, Dave Bears, let the baby split and was unable to convert. So
I was following that a little bit through the 8th, 9th, and 10th frame at the training center. I saw somebody make a post on social media about what they had bowled, and so I pulled up the X-Bowling for a little bit and sort of followed them home from the 8th, 9th, and 10th frame of the last game. And I mean, everybody on that team is obviously very, very talented, so you're not putting 5 guys together that have never competed at a high level. You know, you had 5 unbelievable players that put it all together at the right time, and I'm sure they're looking back thinking, man, what could have been. But either way, you know, to break a record is still unbelievable bowling.
Well, and that was the thing. It's like an emotional roller coaster out there, because we did go out there to watch the final frame and get some video, and you know, it's the highest of the highs going at 3,600, and then of course with the way that things ended, it's hard to be excited at the same time. They were pretty disappointed with the way things ended. So it took some time. They just needed to sit there and reflect on it a little bit, and you know, realize that they just bowled the highest score in history, and you know, but as competitive as some of us are, and I'm sure you can understand, I mean, you feel the same way. You know, it's hard to look at the final number on the scoreboard. Instead, you immediately want to look at what you left out there, what it could have been, and you know, that's the first thing that anybody's going to do. You know, what could we've had, and you know, where were those mistakes?
That's a great point. I mean, hopefully they didn't dwell on it too long, because, like I said, that's unbelievable bowling any way you go about talking about it. But what did you think? Did you think they were going to bowl 3,600?
I was ready. I certainly thought so. I mean, they had the look. I also thought that James' HI. I mean, they all had doubles in the 8th and 9th going into the 10th. They had a chance at a huge number as well. Actually, it was the 7th and 8th, and one of their bowlers struck in the 9th. So all of them having doubles. One guy strikes in the 9th, and then 4 of them actually doubled at least in the 10th. So they got those pins back, but that could have been absolutely huge. You know, if those guys, and they were clean in the 9th, I believe, but it could have been a whole lot more. But that's how it is every year here. I mean, of course, you got to shoot probably a career day to take home a title here, and it's little things like that. We saw some teams last year that made great runs and maybe should have won. They certainly had it within their reach with a couple frames to go, and things just didn't go their way. The Hornswogglers, Alex Cavagnaro and those guys, they missed the team all events title by 43 pins. They struggled in their final game of singles, lost a couple pins there. They missed by 43 pins. So that's less than 1 pin a game. You're talking about, again, a single pin here or there, a count, a fill ball, count on a double. 43 pins over 45 games isn't a whole lot, but sometimes that's what it comes down to here.
Yeah, I mean, all you can do is put yourself in that situation as a competitor, as a player, and just hope your body reacts the right way to it. It's never easy to put yourself in that situation and handle it. That's why people do it, though. You get in that situation, you hope you make the best shot you can, and then whatever happens, happens. And at the end of the day, it's you just did what you can, and you have to move on from that.
Well, and a lot of these teams, you guys included, having great runs at it, coming up a little bit short, but maybe using that as motivation. And when you get back in that position, of course, everybody wants one chance to make a run, and when you get back in that position, Motion Plus Lanes, for example, they had 34.99 last year, just missed in the team event. So they came in wanting it even more, knowing they could get there. Certainly not intimidated by 34.99 at all, since they've shot it before. But the more times you put yourself in that position, the better you handle it and throw the big shots when you need to.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I had a few opportunities to take the lead, and you feel it, coming down the stretch. You know what's leading before, it's not just like, oh, I took the lead. Pretty much if you're in that situation, you know what you need to get to, and you're doing the math, and you just hopefully try and, not say, well, what can happen? Oh, look what I'm about to do, and just take, it's a cliche, of course, but it's a cliche in our game for a reason. Just take every shot at, one at a time, and just execute it to the best of your ability, and worry about what you can do on the approach, and then let the bowling ball, once it gets on the lane, let the bowling gods kind of have that out however they see fit. So Matthew, this is when they're going to start striking. I'm calling it. Next 4 or 5 frames, you're going to see lots of triples, 4-baggers.
All right, folks, that's Team USA assistant head coach Brian O'Keefe. He's seen a lot of strikes thrown on multiple continents, so he knows bowling when he sees it, and he's calling it here. These guys are comfortable. The lanes are broken down to their liking, and he is predicting many strikes. So here's Ryan Whitney on the right lane, looking for a double here, and Ryan throws pins all over the place.
Yeah, Ryan's really laid back. He doesn't show a lot of emotion, as you just saw. He's just kind of easy go. And I think what I really expect, I wouldn't be surprised to see Kyle really start lighting it up here. I think they started to break down. He got stuck behind it just ever so slightly in the 10th frame. He was a little disappointed with his ball reaction on a shot that he thought he threw good. And I think if he just chases that in just a little bit, a couple 2-3 with his feet and a couple 2-3 with his eyes, he's gonna put a really good game together here.
Well, Brian is as experienced as a lot of these guys are outside of the Open Championships. Not too many years in the books here at the OC. Terry Decker, this is number 8. Kevin Decker, number 11. Matt Ward, tournament number 4. Leviner, only number 3. Adam Miller, tournament 6. Ryan Collins, number 5. Chris Hans, the veteran of the group, it looks like, at 14 years. And Zeller making his 13th appearance. Kyle Troup, just second time at the Open Championships. His debut last year, shot 1943 here in Reno. And Ryan Whitney bowling for the 7th time. So these guys just getting their feet under them, I think, here at the Open Championships. And it's been a while since the World Team Challenge days and the team play for Chris Hans, who's got a couple titles out there. But not a lot of opportunities to bowl in the team event. Of course, you got your city and state events. But this certainly is the pinnacle, and this is what these guys work hard for all year long. And no doubt, once you leave the Open Championships, you're already thinking about next year and what could have gone differently, and what you're going to do to get ready. And for you guys, being from all over the country even, a little bit more challenging to prepare. I'm sure there's a lot of communication over the phone, maybe some emails and texts, and guys different places, practicing on the patterns and just trying to get an idea. And we've seen it both ways. We've seen teams come from all over and succeed just because they have such great chemistry and they work so well together. And there's teams who, live and breathe this stuff together, live in the same place, they practice together, they bowl city and state together, and this is just, the end of the year for them. This is what they work up to, and they certainly put in the work, and it shows.
Yeah, I think coming from different places definitely makes it a little bit harder because you may not be quite as familiar with everyone's, let's say, go-to moves and adjustments. Whether they'd like to make a ball change before they'd make a ball speed change, or whether they make a rotation change, meaning get around the side of the ball more or come up the back of it more, versus making a ball speed change. So it's tough in that aspect because I think people that don't bowl together don't know what the normal adjustments that every player likes to make. But talent's talent. You get the good teams coming from all over, and they're talented enough. They kind of bowl their own game, but yet you have 9 other people that are there to be watchful eyes and be ball motion helpers. Because it's hard when you're playing. It's a lot easier, like getting to coach some of the Team USA players and coach a junior team. It's a much different perspective from the back of the settee. You can see things so much clearer as to the motion that needs to happen and how to go about doing it. Where sometimes with the perspective, when you're standing at the foul line, you don't see the first 5, 6, 7 feet, depending on the type of player you are. So it's tough to see if that ball hooked earlier, if it's not starting soon enough. All those type of things play a big factor in proper ball motion. We're talking about a split-second thing where we want to get our ball to be doing the right thing as it enters the pins. So just the smallest of error as to when the ball is hooking and when it's getting into the roll phase, or if it's getting into the roll phase, can be the difference between leaving 3 or 4 ring 10s in a game and bowling 215, or striking on all those and bowling 260, 270, 280 plus. So having those players behind, whether they get to see a bowl all the time or whether it's just a once-a-year experience like in our case, it's still great that you have the people back there that can help and watch.
Well, we do have a lot of people tuning in to watch this broadcast. We do appreciate everybody joining us here. This is Matt Canizar, Media Relations Manager here at the USBC Open Championships, and Team USA Assistant Head Coach Brian O'Keefe. He's the man down in Arlington, Texas at the International Training and Research Center, and of course traveling the world with Team USA, bringing home those gold medals. So Brian, thanks for joining us. We're live here at the National Bowling Stadium behind lanes 31 and 32, watching before the first frame 1 and 2, led by Ryan Whitney, who finished second in all events in 2012 with a 300 game, the first of 19. And we're getting messages here in the chat room, of course. Appreciate everybody. And on Facebook, you can find us at the Sport of Bowling USBC or Matt Canizaro USBC. And we do have a few other talented teams here in the building as well. Some folks were asking about the Michigan bowlers on 23 and 24. And that's John Nolan, the 2009 USBC Masters champ. They shot 11-22, and their companion team 10-34. So a couple of good scores there. And again, they're striking here in game number 2. We'll keep an eye on that. And of course, the rest of the teams here. 35-61, the number on top. That's what they're trying to beat here in 2014 to make the top 5, 33-19, and the top 10, 32-80.
Yeah, I hadn't seen John in a while. I saw him over at Bowling the Bowlers Journal, and it's great to see him. I haven't seen him in probably 4 or 5 years. He said he just coming back after a wrist injury, and I know he had some wrist problems beforehand, so he said he hadn't really bowled the last 3 weeks. But it looks like he's doing okay so far. And that shot right there, I don't know if you saw it, Matt. That shot, Kyle, definitely.
That was for you, Ronnie Horton.
Oh, he's gonna talk to the fans right now. It looked like he got that one a little left of target, but that's when this pattern. If you get your ball doing the right thing, you have room for error, and you just have to make sure it's doing the right thing so you can take advantage of it.
Well, these guys have done a lot of preparation. I've been talking to Chris Hans quite a bit the last couple of weeks as they get their game plan together. Of course, they're looking great in their team jerseys. The Pride Award coming their way. They worked hard downstairs in the practice session, putting their strategy together, and they're confident with that. sticking with it. And you predicted a lot of strikes here in game 2 and 3. They started with 1095 and 993. So far clean here through 3 frames in game number 2. And when Ryan Whitney gets going, we saw him throw a lot of strikes in Baton Rouge in 2012. I believe it was 760 in doubles and 770 in singles. He really gets going. He gets a handful. He's a big dude. And
he is a big dude.
And he's got some big hands. High rev player.
Yeah, I mean, even with that, you know, what most people would consider a higher rev player, he's still, you know, his ball speed's pretty high. So, you know, Ryan likes to see friction. You know, he wants to make sure his ball's going to hook. His natural tendency is to give it a little more oomph, and because of that, he needs to make sure his ball is reading the lane soon enough so that he can miss a little right and see it kind of recover and peel back. And that's kind of why I thought he was going to really start to turn things on now that get one shot to the right a little bit and watch it peel back and send the messenger that he did in the second frame, and magically that'll start to loosen up his swing.
Well, he spent some time practicing with Shannon at the ITRC, I believe, and I guess she really helped him with some ball selection and just get some ideas. And an extra pair of eyes certainly never hurts at all, especially from somebody as talented as her, just lending her time. I'm sure she appreciated having the practice partner, but Ryan spoke very highly of what she was able to help him with, getting him ready for this year's event as well.
Yeah, they were last couple days before. You know, last year they bowled the day before us as well. So he came in and Shan was practicing, and so he pulled up next to her and they talked about things. And yeah, that's great that she helped him out. You know, she has a great eye for ball motion as well. So you don't get to her level without being able to read ball motion. So it's great that she was able to help him out. And like I said, once he gets loose, I think you're really going to see him start to turn it on. Once he just allows that ball to kind of roll off his hand and not try and fit it. If he feels like he's got to fit it, not the best things happen. I guess you can say that about every player. You know, if every player feels like they have to fit it, they're generally not going to bowl their best. When they feel like they have a little room for error, it's amazing how magically they stop using that room for error because they're loose and confident, and you know, everything happens when our swings get looser. Everything good happens when our swings get looser.
See, and that's where I see the challenge for Zeller, being the only left-hander again, with the speed at which the Kegel Ice Oil breaks down, and certainly being left-handed last year, I felt like I was close early. But
you're left-handed?
I am left-handed.
Okay.
Proud to admit it.
All right.
But getting out there and you know, being around the pocket, whether it's a flat 7 or a 6-pin, you're so close, but the transition doesn't exactly happen. So again, you're trying to fit it in there, like you said. And they really never opened up, you know, as much as I would have liked to give me that room, the confidence to be able to miss a little bit. And I felt like every shot had to be perfect, and you know, then you're close, but then you have to make a move. And if it's a ball change, you could go from being around the pocket and leaving those single pins frustrating, of course, to you know, a big split or a washout, just trying to guess.
Yeah, that's the age-long debate, Mr. Matthew. You know, the left-hander versus right-handed issue. Generally with the left, it's either going to be good or it's going to be bad. I mean, you see some of the scores that Mr. Matt McNeil has put up. Obviously, he liked the fact that they weren't changing all that much. He had that perfect ball reaction rate from the word go, or he could make the small little adjustments along the way and, you know, play the lanes how he liked them and bowled some monster huge sets in doing so. Yeah, I mean, you're still going to see transition. You know, the lane never stays the same. Every shot that goes down the lane is transitioning. It's one of the constants in our game, is that the lane's always in constant change. So even though he's the only one over there, yeah, it's not going to change as fast, but it still is going to change. So hopefully he finds something. I think he made a little ball change, right? I don't think he's throwing that blue hammer anymore, and that's an original blue hammer too. That's not even you know, the remade urethane blue hammer. That's an original 88 version, I'd say, if I had to put a guess on the year.
Ryan Whitney matching 4 baggers with Kyle Troup. Looks like a storm of zero gravity.
At least they're making me look like I know what I'm talking about. I said both of them. I really thought they were going to be the ones that really light this team up here this game, and they both start with the front 4.
Well, both of them looks like they shot 215 game 1, 1095. So a nice start, certainly. Just need to keep it up, pile on those strikes. 35-61 is a big number.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get to. It's going to be tough to get to with 1,095, but hey, it's possible.
Well, if anything, of course, Brian, you know this is a marathon. You know, you don't want to have it in your head, but of course, you know, you're always thinking a little bit about the big picture. Of course, tomorrow, 6 more games of doubles and singles, totally different pattern, and team all events. That's the big one. It doesn't pay very well, but it's arguably the most prestigious here. It's the true test of versatility and 45 games, good teamwork. It is the marathon of it, and no matter what, every pin you get today certainly gets you 1 pin closer to a run at team all events. So certainly got to keep that somewhere in the back of your mind, I would think.
Yeah, it's funny. And generally, when I'm out there playing, you know, you just kind of forget about that stuff. Honestly, you know, maybe the last game or two, you know, or maybe when the set's over. I think there's been times where, like last year, for example, when we left, I think we bowled 34 or 100 or something. At the time, we were in 3rd or 4th place, and I remember when we were done, we said, "Hey, well, at least it's a good start for team all events." But then once you're in the heat of the battle, you kind of forget about those things, especially the next day, because well, in the past you were spread out. Now I guess all 5 are probably going to be on the same pair. Before you had a couple different pairs in action when we only had 4 on a pair. So there's a couple different pairs and didn't really know what you bowled. I guess you knew if you're bowling good or bad, but it's tough to keep track of all that stuff and follow along. So you just try and make the best shot possible.
Well, we saw that last year with Eric Familia and his guys, Junior Team USA support. They made a run at the team event. They shot 35-21, which, you know, obviously just short of 35-38. It was the 3rd highest score in history. So they had those emotions immediately, but before they even had their balls in the locker, Matthew Tuckfield told the team, got them together, said, look, don't think of it as, you know, we just missed out on the higher score and taking the lead in a team event. Think of it as we're almost plus 600 here, you know, plus 35 or plus 521 going into team all events. Let's look at that. We got 6 more games tomorrow. That's a heck of a head start. And of course, they went out and bowled great in doubles and singles bright and early at 7 a.m. And took home the title, 10,247. Got challenged a couple times, but they didn't focus on what they left behind in the team event for more than 10 or 12 seconds. They immediately started looking towards the next day and regrouping for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's great. That's what you have to do. Just look to the future. The past is the past. There's Mr. Hans.
7-pin doesn't cooperate for Chris. He had 257 in the opener. These guys, they're right where they want to be. It's just a matter of all the pins cooperating here. While we had this opportunity, Chris wanted to give a shout out to his wife Sarah, so we don't want to forget that. All the family support back home, thanks for tuning in, and he made sure to tell us to say hello, so thank you for being here today. And everybody else, once again, this is Matt Cannizzaro and Team USA assistant head coach Brian O'Keefe here. Aaron Smith across town right now at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. It is opening night at the 2014 USBC Women's Championships. A little bit of poor planning on my part here, but didn't want to miss these 2 great teams here. A lot of folks in town. We saw Chad Murphy earlier, the interim top dog at USBC, in town for the opening, and looking forward to kicking off that event. It'll go until June 30th, and of course the Open Championship started on February 28th. Will run until July 13th, and we talked about it a lot. If it's happening in bowling in 2014, it's happening in Reno next week. The top collegiate teams and individuals, the X-Bowling, Intercollegiate Singles and Team Championships, will be at the RSCC, and then in June, the USBC Queens and Senior Queens will take over the National Bowling Stadium, followed by the USBC Senior Championships. So it really is all happening here. A lot of great opportunities for families to travel and bowl together. Like the O'Keefe, Shannon tonight is headed over to the Convention Center also to bowl in the opening squad. So taking advantage of the 1 plane ticket, bowling in 2 great events, and I'm sure she'll be back in June for the Queens and maybe another shot at the Storm Bowlers Journal Championships. So really so much to do competitively inside the building and in Reno if you time it just right.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, I'm going to stick around for a couple days after we get done bowling and talk to the coaches at the Intercollegiate Team Championships about an event we have in the summertime called the Bowling Combine inside the training center, where we accept applications from high school players across the country, across the world really. Even international players are welcome to apply. And then through an application process, we select players to come, and we invite coaches of collegiate teams to come and basically watch as they go through skill drills and basically skill evaluation, different tests that we put them through. And so I'm going to talk to the coaches a little bit at their coaches meeting about that opportunity for them to hopefully find the next budding stars that we'll see out here in the Open Championships once they turn adult and become adult players.
Well, speaking of the next generation, we saw AJ Chapman, somebody you're familiar with, a former junior Team USA member. Now a standout at Wichita State from Iowa, I believe.
Yep.
And he came out and made his Open Championships debut and helped his team into second place. The team is called Thanks Ronnie. Ronnie Sparks was their 5th member, couldn't make it. AJ took his place and shot 21.94 in his Open Championships debut. And we kind of coined him here the next Tommy Jones. That kid is certainly very versatile, throws the ball great, and an amazing debut, certainly. 763 in team, 710, 721, so very consistent. Had a shot at the all events lead and came up a little bit short, but you got to feel pretty good about that for your first time.
Yeah, geez, what an amazing sub. I mean, that's, if the term super sub is ever meant, that would be the one. It's yeah, AJ, just like, you know, it's amazing, Matt. You know, not to take anything away from AJ, he throws the ball unbelievable. There's 4 or 5 other kids coming up right through the ranks through our Junior Team USA program that are just, you know, talented just like he and throw the ball unbelievable. I got to work with AJ at Tournament of the Americas, not this past summer, but the summer before, and he was great to work with. Very, you know, he listened great. He's very smart about ball motion and things to do, and you know, we had a great time there in South Florida, your neck of the woods, and took home lots and lots of gold medals as a Team USA family. And yeah, he throws the ball unbelievable, no question. And then also going to the program that he's at in college with Mark Lewis and Gordon Vatican up there in Wichita, Kansas, just a little north of where we are in Arlington. You know, he's learning from the best, and he's only going to get better and better and better. And yeah, you're right, tremendous, tremendous talent.
Well, things are a lot different for the next group of rising stars, certainly from when we were kids back in the day. Sport bowling now the big thing, and they're being exposed to it from a much earlier age. They have high school bowling now, the fastest growing varsity sport, and then the junior gold program has grown to sell out numbers every year. Thousands of kids travel to that event, challenge and test themselves on some difficult lane conditions, and that's the norm for them. That's what they're used to now. They go to events, they expect difficult conditions. They see them in college now, whereas perhaps we bowled on house shots back in our collegiate days. But from every level of the game now, that's all they know is these challenging sport bowling lane conditions. So when they come here, it's only what they're used to, and they bowl great. They know, again, how to attack the conditions, how to make the moves, and certainly a very big importance put on spare shooting, and you'll see that at every level as they progress through. And those folks are now on their way out of college, headed to the PBA, headed to the Open Championships. John Zerbinski, another great example of that. Team USA Trials champion, Team USA member. He's out there on tour, came here last year and had the all-events title, and that's all these guys know.
Yeah, I will say they are not afraid. And I think that's the simplest way to put it. They are not afraid to bowl on hard conditions. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of them thrive in it and they love it. You know, maybe we might have missed a generation in that where, you know, they got a little used to maybe some softer house shot type conditions. But the younger group, like you said, they're built in it. All their tournaments are played on the tougher type patterns, and they're not afraid. They're not afraid to come out here and grind and know that it's, you know, better execution is going to lead to higher scores, and that's great. It's amazing. The talent that we have on Junior Team USA and around the country at Junior Gold and the Youth Championships, it's literally amazing. You know, how they learn these days, you know, with YouTube and with all the media outlets where they can watch the players on television. They can learn, you know, they can just learn by watching the internet. You know, it's amazing what they do to a bowling ball with on how efficient they can do it, and then be able to repeat it on top of it. So not only is it more powerful, but it's looser, which makes it more repeatable, which makes it really, really hard to beat from someone like myself who has more of a old school game, a little more upper body dominant, a little more muscled, and try and get it done with smoke and mirrors as opposed to the modern type game of play and how they do it these days.
Well, we're certainly seeing a variety of styles here on this pair of lanes. Ryan Whitney, the big hands, the high rev player, and he now has the front six here. Kyle Troup, the two-hander, the youngster, making his way up in the PBA ranks. The PBA regional champion 7 times, player of the year in the South.
Say 7 times?
7-time PBA regional champ already.
Wow, yeah. And I heard he was only 22 years old today. So
just a youngster and following his father's footsteps. Guppy Troup, of course, a personality out there on tour for a long time, and Kyle's making his way.
I think he's got some of his dad's personality in him too, just kind of watching his mannerisms and such. I never got a chance to meet Guppy Troup. I was a little bit younger when he was on tour. But yeah, it was always awesome to watch. It's kind of funny how the trends and the styles, Guppy Troup. I saw somebody bowling earlier that had what would be considered like the Guppy Troup type pants on from earlier. So it's funny how he was like the weird, crazy stylist back then, and the flamboyant stylist. Now it's a thing. As I walk around with my white belt as I'm bowling today, it adds 10 pins to your score, though, Matt. So that's
what they
why
say.
I do it.
That's what they say.
Yeah, it's 11 pins actually. I don't want to short myself a pin. So I bowled 629 today, but without it, it would have been like 596, 597.
I will certainly keep that in mind when it's my turn to head out there. And these guys, as predicted, throwing a lot of strikes here in game 2. Started with 1095, 993. And piling them on, of course. We'll take a look down at 23 and 24. It looks like Bill Kazmierski has the front 7 as well. So a lot of strikes on that pair. 11-22 first game. So we'll keep you updated on what's happening over there. Brian, we appreciate you being here today.
It is my pleasure, Matthew.
I'm sure you're going to head over to the convention center later on and watch Shannon try to get it done there. And what better warm-up for the Open Championships than a team squad at the USBC Women's Championships. And I believe she just found a spot. A team needed a sub, and she's glad to help out and get those games in under the competitive lights there. The Reno Sparks Convention Center, 44 lanes, the world's largest mobile scoreboards. Really a one-of-a-kind venue.
Yeah, she did it last year as well. She found that she got on the sub list when we arrived, and somebody called her and said, "Hey, we need a player," and she's like, "Okay, I'll bowl." And the lady was like, "Okay, what's your average?" And she said, "I think it was 228 or 227 from last year." And she's like, "Oh wow," it was kind of funny that. Not that every bowler knows who my wife is. That's not what I'm trying to say. But it was funny when she arrived and they're in the back in the squad room and they start announcing, people who have won different things, in the squad room, and the people on her team are looking at her like, "Oh wow, I didn't." It was kind of funny to be there and be a part of it. They're all for it after that. They're like, "Oh yeah." It's a beautiful spare by Mr. Hans there. I'm accustomed to that. I actually made that spare 3 times today, man. I made it 3, 4, 6, 7, 10. I left it 3 times. I made it all 3. Don't ask me why I left it 3 times. I didn't try to, but I made it every single time.
Well, the opportunity to get your feet under you a little bit here at the National Bowling Stadium and get a feel for that doubles and singles pattern. So now you won't leave it any times.
Or if I do leave it, I pretty much have no chance to make it, is what you're saying. I'll go 0 for my next 27.
I have a feeling you're not going to leave it at all. You're going to learn. You're going to learn from those shots, and you're going to throw only great shots in doubles and singles over here on Sunday.
I appreciate the confidence.
And we are surrounded by strikes. We've got Mr. Kazmierski over on 23 and Zach Newman over on 45 with the front 8. At 299 earlier.
299 earlier today?
Earlier in doubles and singles.
No, nice.
We've had 5 300s this year. 4 of them coming in the team event. This 43-foot sport bowling certified lane condition. Terrible break there for Troup. The 4-9.
And hopefully Mr. Whitney has seen the last 2 shots by the righties. You know, Chris didn't look like a bad shot. It looked like he may have rolled it just a little bit more, maybe possibly a little bit slow, but it wasn't too far offline, and it kind of jumped through the face. And then Kyle, that shot looked pretty good as well, and hooked as well. So I'm assuming I see Ryan talking to the guys right here. I'm sure he'll make a move to try and stay ahead of it. That's a big thing. You know, if one person goes high, and you try and make as few amount of people stay behind the move as possible. You know, the quicker your team as a whole can jump ahead of it, you know, it's one shot that you adjust off of as opposed to waiting 5 or 6 different shots where you're like, well, was that good? Was it good? And then before you know it, you're behind the move and you look up and nobody has strikes in that frame as opposed to only 1 or 2 people not striking.
Well, so many pieces, of course, involved in finding success as a team here. You guys bowled a lot of events back in the day, the World Team Challenge. Spent a lot of time in the team atmosphere. Not so much now. So all part of the challenge of coming out and trying to put all those pieces together, the chemistry, the camaraderie, and the communication, very important. So you're right. Did Ryan learn from the last 2 shots by Kyle Troup and Chris Hans? And we'll see here. He's going for 7 in a row.
Yeah, his ball motion looks really good, so I expect this one to be pure. Yeah, that's the thing. Dang bowling. He makes a move, throws a great shot. Ball just retains a little bit too much axis rotation. Probably didn't quite get into the roll phase and leaves a ring 10.
Well, these guys still going with a little bit of surface there. Ryan is still throwing that 0 gravity. And, you know, we've seen it a few times where the ball is just a little too smooth on the back. We start leaving, you know, half 10s, and then it's time to make that move left and maybe get something that's going to be a little more angular, you know, a little more pop on the back end, of course.
Yeah, it can be both ways. That's one of the big misconceptions with, you know, everybody thinks if you leave a half 10 or, you know, like a half 10 or half 7 pin for a left-hander, everybody thinks it's always that your ball is burning up too soon, and quite honestly, that's not the case. If anything, more times than not, it's because your ball's not starting to hook soon enough, and your ball has actually, you know, the 3 phases of ball motion being the skid phase, which happens in the first 15, 20 feet, then the hook phase, which happens throughout the course of the mid lane and towards the back end part of the lane, and then hopefully right before the ball hits the pins, it gets into the roll phase. Well, if your ball doesn't ever get into that roll phase and hits the pins in the hook phase, you can leave just as many half 10s as if your ball is getting into the roll phase too early. So not to try and get too technical, but that happens lots of times where you'll see people, they'll leave half 10, and they think, oh, my ball is, you know, a little too weak or not changing directions enough down lane. And so they ball down, and they go into more stronger equipment on the back end, and all it does is make it worse, and it doesn't actually make it better because they actually went the wrong way. They needed their ball to start a little bit sooner so that it got into that hook phase a little sooner and then eventually got into the roll phase when it hit the pins.
That's why you're the expert, sir.
That makes sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
I'm just the left-hander with the headset. So
you're a good left-hander with a headset,
That's
though.
why we brought you in today, to offer your expert analysis, and certainly you're getting a show. A lot of strikes all around us, and hopefully you're learning a little bit something as well as you get ready for your team event. I know you've watched the broadcast, and we do appreciate that. We appreciate everybody joining us here live at the National Bowling Stadium. But when you watch one of these broadcasts, I know certainly you're tuning in for the sweet sounds of Matt Canizaro and Aaron Smith, but really, what are you looking for? What are you trying to learn, or what ideas are you trying to get from watching these teams compete?
I think I mentioned it earlier. Generally, I watch, like, nothing against you guys. You guys obviously do a wonderful job. Batman and Robin, I call you guys. But, you know, I watch about the first 15 frames, and that's really about where I stop, just because we're going to dictate what happens the last 15 frames. But the first 15 frames, I want to see, you know, kind of how quick it transitions. When does it seem like the track starts to open up a little bit? You know, what's the best way to adjust once that happens? Is it to stay with the same ball and just, you know, move across the lane in terms of left to right adjustments, or is it to ball down or make bowler variable adjustments like change your ball speed or change your hand position? You know, what's the best thing? What's going through the pins the right way? Because, you know, that's the biggest thing, making sure your ball's doing the right thing as it's going through the pins, getting into those 3 phases of ball motion like I just mentioned. So And after 15 frames, like I said, then it really is dictated basically by how the players play the lanes and what their natural tendencies are. So the last, game or so, like I said, it really depends on what they did the first 15 frames that is going to dictate where they're playing the last 15. So that's really what I try and take out of it is just, where did they start? How strong of balls did they use? What type of hand positions? What seemed to be going through the pins the best? And then once they transition, how did they stay in that sweet spot of ball roll? And it looks like right now they're losing it a little bit. Unfortunately, they're missing a few spares as well, but it looks like they probably just had to adjust ever so slightly, and the ball changes that little bit of angle, and it doesn't go through the pins quite the same. Now Kyle, with his two hands of fury there with all the power, he's still got that 6-pin to kick that 10-pin out of there. But we saw Chris, throw 3 pretty good shots, but now all of a sudden his ball's not going through the pins quite as well. So I expect him to make an adjustment, whether it be maybe ball down, or maybe it's ball speed adjustment or hand position adjustment.
Well, they're talking about it, and this is about where we've seen the transition since last year, the introduction of the Kegel Ice, and where it might have happened, the 3rd or 4th frame of game number 2. And teams kind of predicted those moves, and you just go with it. You kind of expect it to happen. You make the moves based on history and your experience with the way the lanes break down, and it's just happening later here with this new oil, and now we're getting towards the end of game number 2, and it's happening. So it's a matter of getting through it quickly enough and communicating and talking through it before it's too late.
Yep, exactly. This is the key part here. I mean, they're putting up a good score anyways, but they want to get the highest they can. So this is a key portion of their set where you don't want to let things sort of start trending in the wrong direction. They want to make sure that they keep everything on the up and up. That was a great spare there by Ryan. A lot of it has to do with the stadium too, Matt. Not only the ice oil, but the stadium plays different. It breaks down differently. It always has. It's always kind of been like an anomaly. And of all the places in the world of bowling, the bowling stadium has a mind of its own from time to time. And if your ball's doing the right thing, it's amazing how many strikes you can throw. But if it's doing the wrong thing, it's amazing how many 10 pins, 7 pins, 4 pins, 8 pins, 9 pins you can leave shot after shot after shot. Still striking down there on 23 and 24, right? Front 8.
Front 8 going for 9 now. Bill Kazmierski, hope we're saying that right. He's up on the approach now. So we'll keep you posted on that. If you want to follow along, you go to xbowling.com, track down the National Bowling Stadium, and you can see the scores on any pair of lanes here at the NBS. Right now we're behind lanes 31 and 32. Watching before the first frame, 1 and 2. Talented group, North Carolina area. Ryan Whitney, of course, from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Bowled the first 300 game of the 2012 event. And these guys have been in the mix for a long time, and we're glad to be able to showcase them here in 2014.
Matt, do you have any bold predictions that you want to throw out there for us?
For today or overall?
Overall.
Brian, I've been here long enough. This is tournament number 10. I thought I'd seen it all, but I'm never surprised. I don't know if I could make any predictions. There's some big numbers, and I think there's still some big numbers yet to come, of course. You mentioned earlier 35-61 leading the team event. Do I think that's enough? That's a tough one, certainly.
It's the highest of all time. It's hard to
watching
say.
Those guys, but then watching Thanks Ronnie come in the very next day and make a run at it as well. So they kind of went opposite. Motion plus lanes, 1269, 1177, and 1115, where Thanks Ronnie, got better each game, 1122, 1175, 1217. So hard to say. Again, as our friend Jeff Regals points out often, it's nothing's untouchable. And we saw that in 2009 when Ron Vogts shot 857 in singles and 23-21 in all events, and we thought it was over at that point in April. Then, of course, Bo Gergen came out and shot 862 in singles and took home that title. So, I don't know. So hard to say. Just some big numbers and so many talented teams on the way, as you mentioned earlier. that anything absolutely can happen. I can see you guys going out and making a run at it tomorrow. We've seen it so many times. You've been in the 3400s multiple times, and not too many on that list either. So if things come together and, you know, 1 or 2 less 4.9s and, you know, a few pins fall your way, I certainly think you are one of those teams that can get it done here.
Well, thank you for that. That'd be fun. I'll tell you that. That'd make tomorrow night a fun time if we even get, you know, down to the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th frames with a chance to make that happen. That would be that'd be a lot of fun to at least give it a whirl. No 300s this game, Matthew. No 300s.
Still time. This is only game 2 of today's team event. 1 more to go.
Yeah, this game. Just this game.
Seems to be a bit of a roller coaster on the leaderboard as well. We had a week where it was all about the classified bowlers, and then the next week seemed like every score in the regular division was in jeopardy. We saw the regular singles lead hold up for a month before being beaten twice in 15 hours.
It's amazing how that happens. Not to jump in there, but I almost think of it like the flipping the coin type theory, where, you know, if you flip a coin enough, it's basically going to end up at 50-50, but there's going to be stretches throughout you flipping that coin where it's going to go heads, 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 like non-stop. It's going to be consistently in one spot. It seems that's almost like, I mean, you're here, you see it all the time. All of a sudden a stretch will come in 1 or 2 weeks, and it's like, seems like every team on the lanes has a chance to take a lead in an event, and then you'll have a month where it seems like nobody's even really doing anything. So it's crazy how that works out like that. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was Baton Rouge, we finished 3rd or 4th overall, and going into the last game, we were 4th on our squad.
Well, we saw it in 2009 with Jason Milligan's group. Actually, the top 2 teams, they battled into the 10th frame to determine the title. They finished 1-2 on the same squad, and that was the longest event in history at 154 days. So the top 2 teams, 10 lanes apart. It's just, you know, they pushed each other and they put up some big numbers.
Yeah, I believe that year we finished 2nd and 4th, if I'm not mistaken. It was Wisconsin guys, Brian Brazeau and Dennis Rakoskis and those guys, either past Wisconsin guys or Wisconsin guys now. Yeah, it's just amazing how stuff like that happens. Hopefully the run continues for at least a couple more days.
Well, once again, some numbers on top of the leaderboard here. Team event 35-61, 32-80 to make the top 10 in regular doubles. That's the one, again, last year, fresh oil every squad for the first time, brought the doubles number down quite a bit. Right now, 1378 on top, 1325 to make the top 10. Singles we talked about, 788 is your leader. Terrence Blevins led it for a month at 783, and Justin Ziegler came in dramatic fashion. Left the 3-6-10, picked it up, and then actually left the 3-6 on his fill ball, but something was spinning across the deck, took out both pins to give him the lead at 784.
Wow.
And then 15 hours later, Derek Magno, somebody you're probably familiar with.
Yep.
From
upstate New York
upstate
area.
New York, 788 with a 234 finish. So he struggled with carry a little bit there in game number 3, but currently that is your number. And again, regular all events, 22-28, Tim Damrow. Tim leading 3 events here. The third one, team all events with a big number, 10,363. They made a run at the record again, left the pins out there. That is a tough one to get to, but I don't know if that one's enough either.
You said they missed 10 single pins in that set?
It was upwards, close to probably 100 pins and single pins over the 2 days.
That's crazy. I mean, there's a reason, like you said, the fresh, the 40-foot pattern to me is, 39, 40 feet is generally the hardest. On sport-compliant patterns, there's so many different parts of the lane you can play that it makes it really challenging. On shorter patterns, the lane's basically going to dictate where you're going to play. You're going to have to play closer to the gutter. Your break point's going to have to be farther away from the pocket. Longer patterns, your break point's going to have to be closer to the pocket. You're going to be a little straighter through the front. But on medium patterns, you can get away with doing lots of different things. So, that's why they're so hard and why the scores are lower. So to see a team come in and average 228 as 5 guys for the whole set, to me, it's just, man, I really think that's going to be a tough number to beat. And unfortunately, what we're seeing here, Matt, is we're seeing exactly what we were kind of hoping wouldn't happen. Is they've only thrown 3 strikes as a. This is before the first frame. Number 1 has only thrown 3 strikes in the last couple of frames. So they're still getting the pocket, but just those little adjustments that they had to make, it changed the ball motion. The transition made him move left to right, and I'm wondering if maybe they moved a little too much horizontally and not necessarily front to back wise on the lane. That's one tip I'd have for everybody out there listening, is that all your adjustments don't have to be just left to right. The lane is so much longer than it is wider side to side, and a lot of people just always make their adjustments left to right and just move their feet left, their target left, their eyes right, their target right, as opposed to throwing it harder, throwing it softer, using more rotation, using less rotation, using more rev rate, using less rev rate to control the lane front to back. Because lots of times, like you're seeing right now, when just that small little adjustment that the teams had to make in order to stay in the pocket, now all of a sudden all those strikes aren't really coming up on the board. You're seeing lots of 10 pins, a pocket 7-10, a 4-9. So you're seeing just those small, tiny changes can make a big difference in what the ball is doing front to back, and that's where I think they're kind of lacking right now. And it's very easy to do. People get caught in that trap all the time where it's just a lot easier to move your feet a couple boards left and try and have the ball do the same thing. But you're hitting a higher volume of oil when you move left, part of the lane that nobody's been in so far, or not as much traffic has happened. And so the ball goes a little bit longer, and it changes the angle, and it changes when the ball's getting into phases, and it just makes it harder to make the ball go through the pins. And I think that's going to be the big thing for us tomorrow, is when we make those adjustments, to try and make sure the ball goes through the pins. Easier said than done. I've been in these guys' situations lots of times, not only as a player but as a coach, trying to make sure the players are seeing it and feeling it and reading it. And sometimes it just seems really hard to figure out what that perfect match is. It's an invisible playing field. It's not like the Masters where the PGA is playing right now. They don't stand on a tee box and look at an open field, and then the second they hit the ball, the water hazard pops up right where their ball's heading. They get to see their trouble right from the tee box.
Well, that's what it's all about. That's the challenge of it. You only get one shot at it every year.
Yep.
And you have to go out there and make the best shots you can, and be confident in your moves and your how you handle the transition, and just make the best shots you absolutely can, and leave it all out there. It's cliche, but it's the truth.
That's all you can do. You can just make the best educated guess. Our game is all about educated guesses. It's a chess game, and you're trying to just find the right moves at the right time, and hopefully you make them.
Well, Brian O'Keefe, Team USA assistant head coach, and the man down at the ITRC in Arlington, Texas. We got a lot of folks in the chat room today. Thank you all for joining us. This is Matt Canizar. We're live at the 2014 USBC Open Championships, and Heather Whitney, Ryan's wife, at home, trying to coach him through this transition and trying to get him to make the right moves. And she's a pretty talented player herself.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, a big shout-out to some of my guys, Chad McLean and the crew at the Apex Pro Shop WI here first weekend in May. Talented group includes Chad and Ralph Solon. I know a number of you might be familiar with from your days.
Of course, I know Ralph really well.
But that group really coming along, some great players, so looking forward to having all my guys out here as well in the coming weeks. And it really does get exciting here. Again, the Women's Championship kicks off tonight over at the Reno Sparks Convention Center, and 2 weeks from now, the USBC Convention back in town, so we'll get to see a lot of great bowling industry faces come through town, and some great players out there. We have a 50-year guy on the lanes today.
Yeah, I saw that.
John Molnar.
That's amazing, 50 years. That's awesome.
And then during convention week, we'll have Glenn Allison and Jimmy Schroeder. Jimmy's going to be bowling for the 66th time.
Wow.
Glenn also over 60, and those guys, always great to see them. They're going to come to the Hall of Fame dinner. We get to see our good friend John Gaines and Dale Traber get inducted into the USBC Hall of Fame. So an exciting dinner planned for that as well. Just a lot of excitement coming up here in the next few weeks here, and we'll be at full schedule. So a lot of bowlers coming through. We'll be wall to wall, and we'll be full here. We're here till July 13th, so still a lot of days and a lot of great players to come. Brian, Heather Whitney says you are a smart man, so You know what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you, Miss Heather. They'll figure it out. Still bowling a good game. Man, it looks like they're going to get to right around 1,100. They're going to be 200 over. You know, they bowl a good 1,200 game here, which game 3, which I could most certainly see them do, and bowl 3,400. 3,400, that's nothing to sneeze about. You know, not everybody's going to come in here and bowl 3,550, 3,500. You know, 3,400. I don't care if you're bowling in league. You know, you bowl a 5-man league, you bowl 3,400. You didn't bowl bad that night, so. You know, it's hard to knock down that many pins. I don't care how easy the shot is. You know, you can put out a 10-to-1 ratio house shot, and there's nights when 5 unbelievable bowlers aren't going to bowl 3,400. It's just how it is.
These guys certainly making a great run at it, and again over on 23 and 24, we got our eyes on them. They're at 10:28 with the bowler to go, and the companion team right around 1,000 this game. So. Falling off pace a little bit, but we'll keep our eyes on them the rest of the way. Ryan Whitney started this game with 6 in a row before a trio of spares trying to finish strong here in the 10th with 2 great shots there. Snaps off the 10.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to ask him what he did in this 10th frame here, because his ball just was going through the pins differently than it did for that 3-frame stretch there. Now, one of them was a ring 10, which. You know, that happens. You're throwing a round object down a lane that's hitting other round objects that is then deflecting into other round objects. You know, there's going to be a little bit of luck involved in the game of bowling, and ring 10s are going to happen. But then the next 2 didn't quite go through there quite as well. So interesting to see what he did. If he made any adjustment, maybe he moved back a little to the right and threw it a little harder, or maybe he, you know, brought the ball speed down a little bit. Looks like he's going to try a ball change here on the fill just to see what goes on with it. That's a great tip, too. It's a little harder in a tournament like this where you only have 3 games, but especially in longer format tournaments, you know, make your fill balls count. You know, try something different. I think the PBA players are the best at that in the world, where you go watch a professional event, and on their fill balls, they're constantly trying something different, because you know, if they bowl 255 the game that they're finishing, or if they bowl 256, it only makes 1 pin difference in their game. But yet if the next game, if they try something and it looks really good, then they bowl 230 the next game as opposed to bowling 190. All of a sudden it's a 40 pin difference that they made strictly by trying something on their fill ball. So like I said, in this tournament it's a little harder because it's just a 3-game sprint. But you know, it's still great to try, because he obviously saw the same thing that I was seeing, where his ball's not going through the pins quite as well. So he tried the Mastermind Genius, I believe it was, and I think he said he thought he was going to use that quite a bit today, but I think they're probably just a little bit tighter up here than downstairs.
That's been the rumor, but believe it or not, Chris Hahn said that they really used a lot more surface downstairs than they expected to, which was surprising to me. You know, knowing that some folks have talked about that being last year, of course, the track showcase lanes were brand new downstairs at the ground floor. Maybe a year of traffic changed that a little bit, but they said they saw the need for a lot more surface than they expected, and you know, weren't really sure how that was going to translate to coming upstairs for the 3 games of the team event.
Yeah, I think we had it like that last year. Downstairs seemed to hook maybe just a little bit more, but I mean, every lane's different, so it could just be the pair we were bowling on versus, you know, upstairs versus downstairs.
Well, right now, Brian, it's that time. 13:45 is the number. That's what they need to get a piece of the lead here.
Well, you always figure that out. You're a mathematician, aren't you, my friend?
That's what we do. We keep track here, and you know, we want to know. But 13:45.
That's a score.
That is quite a score. I saw that one time in my bowling career, to be honest, in person. It was at a collegiate event, Central Missouri State, and I was impressed enough to remember that, you know, more than a dozen years later. But you don't see scores like that very often.
1340 is a major score.
But that's what it's going to take. Anything less is just a great head start towards team all events, and of course a nice paycheck perhaps in the team event. But we're not here for paychecks, Mr. O'Keefe. I have a feeling that you as well are here for the Eagles. The money gets spent the scores get forgotten, but the Eagles forever. I mean, the money's nice too, of course. That will certainly help send the
Should
kids
put
to
that on a
college.
poster.
We should do that.
Money gets spent, scores are forgotten, but an Eagle lasts forever.
Very true.
I can see it now. Poster.
That's what we do in
make it happen.
in the media relations department when things are slow. During those lulls, when there's not a team making a run at the lead every day. But just right next door again, lane 23, John Nolan, 2009 Masters champ, 11:22, 10:87. So they're right on pace with these guys, just about 10 sticks back.
So that would mean they need 13:35.
So they're going to need again the highest score in history to get to the lead today, and 3,500 really is a ton.
Yeah.
And watching those guys bowl that 12:69 out of the gates on the fresh even was unbelievable. But to see how some teams work that, some teams we talk about strategy where the goal at the beginning is to break the lanes down in a way that will give you an opportunity later in the day. And those guys just hit the ground running and then stumbled a little bit in the transition later. So different strategies and different ways to get to the same goal.
Yeah, it's a tricky formula. What do you do? Do you try and manipulate the lane pattern to your liking? The balls of today, they absorb the oil, so you can do that. Especially with 10 guys on a pair, you're going to change the pattern. So, do you try and all play right around that same part of the lane and adjust from there, or do you just go have at it and give it the best you can with everybody playing kind of wherever they want to play? I think it's been proven the first part is probably the better answer. Some years more than others, I think it's needed. This year probably not quite as much because the lane, not as much volume. It seems to be blended a little bit more. Just naturally when you start, it's not quite as much. There's not as much hang to the right, I guess you could say, with hook left of you for right-handers, of course.
A lot of folks. I totally understand. A lot of folks do a lot of homework. They study the patterns. Again, we always use Jeff Riggle's group as an example, the 11thframe.com guys. We talk a lot about them, and certainly they have a lot of titles. They have a lifetime average leader. But everybody on that team serves a role. And Jeff Riggles is the organizer. He gets everything together, makes sure everybody knows where to be, gets the shirts, the whole deal, keeps everything flowing, gets the team registered, all that good stuff. Steve Richter's the information guy. He's up there in Sheboygan Falls, Wisconsin. He gets the pattern as soon as it comes out, puts it down, practices on it, reports back to the team, tries different balls, tries different angles, just tries to help prepare them for their team practice sessions that come up later. Gail Myers is small in stature, but he is the lifetime average leader. He gets it done quietly.
So what is he? He's the what guy? If you said Riggles is the organizer guy, and then Richter is the
He's the information guy. He does the homework. Gail Myers is their leadoff bowler. He's kind of the little firecracker to that
I know
group.
Gail. What is he? He's the what guy?
He's their leadoff guy, the firecracker.
Okay.
He gets them fired up.
He's their emotional guy.
He's slow and steady, gets it done. He communicates after he throws a shot, comes back, talks to the guys, and he's their little firecracker.
So would Mike Shady be their striking guy then?
Well, Shady and McDowell, both very talented. They go out there and they bowl.
I actually bowled one of the Open Championships with both of them.
Yeah,
back in like '96 or so. We had a really good team that year, and we bowled terrible.
Their job is to strike.
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
do that a lot. Mike Shady has never shot under 1900.
Yeah, that's amazing.
They get the information, they go out, they practice, and they throw a lot of strikes. And I'm sure your team is like that. Every team, there's a role for everybody. We talk a lot to Emil Williams Jr., who worked with us for a long time, and he was his team's leadoff bowler back in college, helped them to a national title. He was known as the human firework as well. That's what you put it all together. It's a good team chemistry, and you serve your role, and things get done. Folks just coming in. Again, this is Matt Cannizzaro and Brian O'Keefe live at the National Bowling Stadium behind lanes 31 and 32. The 2014 USBC Open Championships we're watching before the first frame 1 and 2. putting up some nice numbers here on this 2014 43-foot sport bowling certified lane condition. They took advantage of the track showcase lanes earlier, got their game plan together, selected their equipment, and came up here, and they're throwing a lot of strikes, 1095, 1121. They need a monster of a score, of course, the highest score ever, but they're going to certainly have a great head start and a lot of confidence heading into doubles and singles tomorrow. But these guys, very entertaining, and I'd like to see them throw a few strikes because I can see some emotions coming out, especially as they're making a run. They may not be taking down the team lead, but again, every pin very important for the big picture. Ryan Whitney, we've seen him get crazy emotional before in Baton Rouge, throwing 300 game and finishing second in all events. I had a mohawk back then, and we have a nice video of him getting that done. It's in our archives. You can visit our YouTube channel, youtube.com/bowltv, and see a lot of great videos and past live streams going back a couple of years, so check that out. And of course, Kyle Troup, a little bit of a character like Guppy, and when he gets going, certainly we'll see some emotion out of him. And those guys, 4-5 in the lineup here, threw a lot of strikes last game. Kyle with 236, Ryan with 256 to help them to 1121. So those are your emotional guys for sure on this team. And Chris Hahn, slow and steady, certainly does the homework for the group, and throws some big scores as well. 257, struggled in game 2, 182. And our lone left-hander, Butch Zeller, 193, 224. So he's around the pocket, he's steady, throwing 2 decent games, making all of his spares. That's all you can really ask for. But often that's the wild card here at the Open Championships, and a lot of groups will go out there with 2 or 3 lefties to just have a little bit of transition. I know we're not used to a whole lot of lane change, and it gets tricky, you know, when that does happen. Certainly you don't want to overcompensate it all and get to a position that you're not familiar with, but it certainly does help to have 1 or 2 other left-handers to help open the lanes up just a little bit. So when you feel like you're close, you give yourself a little bit of room and you can get comfortable. And you know, you mentioned Matt McNeil earlier. His group does have at least two, possibly even 3. His doubles partner, Charles Vishaw, also left-handed, so those guys work very well together, the 2 or 3 of them, just to talk through everything and give a little bit of transition, but not too much that it gets uncomfortable.
Sure, and it's great to bounce ideas off of as well. And I know from a coaching standpoint, it can be challenging from time to time trying to coach left-handers, just because everything is different. The adjustments are different, how you play the lanes are different, so it can be challenging to make suggestions that for somebody on the left side, as opposed to myself being right-handed. I know the moves that can generally work when you see different things transitioning throughout the course of the set. And left-handers, it can be exactly the opposite of that, which might work. So having another person or 2 to bounce ideas off of, fellow southpaws, is not a bad idea at all.
Well, I know you and Kim Kearney have tried to help me quite a few times at the ITRC after work. Go down.
You just don't listen.
And there's a lot of head shaking there from you guys, and I am pretty stubborn.
I'm just joking. One of these years, Mr. Matt, you're going to bust through in this tournament. You're going to be writing about yourself. Well, that'd be fun. I actually did fill out the questionnaire a couple of years ago, so it's ready to go. Just a matter of updating the dates and a couple of addresses and honor scores or whatever. But it's been ready. Certainly waiting for that year. I wish I had more time to dedicate to getting ready and practicing and getting out there. But that's kind of what the off season is for, to get down to the ITRC and bowl some leagues and tournaments, and so I can throw great shots like Kyle Troup did right there. And you see that emotion that we talked about. It's starting to come out because we're getting down to it. So there's not much to leave out there at this point. Throw good shots, finish the game strong, and really have some momentum going into tomorrow. Yeah, it's the last game. Just let it all go. I see him talking with Ryan now about the adjustments to make.
Brian O'Keefe's going to be with us here for about 10 more minutes before they head over to the Convention Center standing bowling tonight and the opening squad of the USBC Women's Championships. Very exciting.
Yeah, duty calls. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's like you said, she's the money maker for you guys. And
you're going to lose your replacement Robin today.
So, but you guys get to go hang out with Aaron Smith over there at the Convention Center and see the opening ceremony. Again, Chad Murphy in town to help usher in the 2014 event. Ryan Whitney staring down the pins there. He starts this game with a double.
Yeah, all they need to get going here is just, you know, build a little momentum. They had it through the first half of that last game and kind of sputtered down the stretch, but hopefully now they can get back on it and just start stringing them. It's amazing how contagious strikes are. You know, when somebody starts striking, the person in front of you starts striking, and you just get in the mindset where my ball's going to knock them down too, and that power of positive thinking goes a long way.
And that's what team bowling is all about, really. I mean, bowling in college, bowling the World Team Challenges, you got 4 guys or 9 guys behind you to pick you up and celebrate with you, and you know there's nothing like seeing that momentum and seeing those strikes, and it really does. It gets you fired up to get up there and throw your next shot. You know, we've seen some great Open Championships moments where teams just buckle down and really pull through together. You know, we saw that last year with Vermillion and his group coming down at the end of doubles and singles, and they had a huge final game to set that bar high enough. And they worked through it, talked together. Their 5th bowler, Matthew Tuckfield, needed just 55 pins in his final game, so not a whole lot of pressure on him. But he bowled on the pair to the right of them, and you know, went out and shot 230, and really gave them that boost that they needed to hold on. But as soon as they were done, they were right there talking him through it, keeping him calm, and it's great to turn around and see those guys behind you with the high fives and just ready to support you no matter what.
Sure, there can be nothing better than team bowling. I love team bowling. Like you said, I bowled collegiately at Nebraska, and then had the fortune of kind of growing up in the bowling world alongside the Brunswick World Team Challenges, and had the opportunity to bowl with some unbelievable players. Looking back on it, some of the people that I bowled with was kind of amazing to say, wow, I got to bowl with those guys. But yeah, there's nothing like team bowling. I mean, it can be good and bad. You know, you have the pressure of you feel the pressure of the whole team. Not that the team is trying to put the pressure on there. They're not doing it on purpose, but you feel the weight of the whole team when you're on that approach. And when it pays off and everything goes according to plan, and I'll say my 2 favorite moments in bowling so far. One was when we won the national championship at Nebraska, and the second one was when I was coaching World Youth Championships in Bangkok, Thailand a couple summers ago when we won the World Championships, and both of them were revolved around the team event. You know, it's just an awesome feeling to get it done as a group and just sort of live that experience with other people. It's something you can look back on for the rest of your life and have unbelievable recollections of it.
Well, if you want to see Brian O'Keefe in action, certainly hit YouTube up and check out some of those old World Team Challenge videos. He's the guy with the hair, believe it or not.
Let's not. I had some good ones and some bad ones. A few of the television shows I performed okay, you know, some of them better than others, and then I had a few that were just disaster shows. I remember missing the 5-9 completely on the telecast once, bowling with John Gaines and Mike Machuga and Steve Klumpkin and Bill Rowe and myself. We led the tournament, get to the television, and it's just an absolute disaster show. 5-9, missing both. I'm like, oh, this is fun. Only a couple 100,000 people, maybe 1 million people watch me miss the 5-9 completely on national television. That's fun.
Well, certainly you put yourself in position to win quite a few times, and for every time that things didn't go so well, they went extremely well. So you've certainly built quite a resume over the years, and many people don't realize you didn't go out on tour and light it up and get yourself on ESPN on Sunday afternoons, but certainly a lot of accomplishments, a Bowlers Journal Championships titleist even.
Yeah.
So you've done quite a few things in Tournament of the Americas, 6 gold medals, right?
Yeah, something like, yeah, 6, yeah, I believe so. That was a long time ago. I'm terrible with years and remembering stuff like that. I have all the medals and stuff, but yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I won every event but one. So how many events there were? I won all of them but one. Well,
certainly you've added some great value to today's telecast. We appreciate you being here, and a lot of folks in the chat room asking why you're not on more often. Well, Brian, always hard at work down in Texas at the ITRC International Training and Research Center, and out here this weekend to bowl in the Open Championship. So appreciate you taking some of your personal time to come on and chat with us as well.
Man, I don't get to see you for 5 months out of the year, and it's my pleasure to sit in and chat with you a little bit, and hopefully give the people watching at home just a little bit of glimpse as to some of the things that go on and what they can look forward to, and hopefully just make them play better. You know, that's my goal as a coach now, is to make everybody play better.
So now you're here, and you're here to compete. Of course, your personal time, and who's manning the ITRC for you this week?
I'll be Miss Kimberly, and the head coach of our facility and the head coach of Team USA, which is Rod Ross. They're manning that up. Kim, is she back yet? No, Kim is actually she was at the NCAA championships for a couple days, promoting our combine event like I'm going to do with the USBC Intercollegiate Championships here. And then Rod's back in the training center. So we mix it up. There's 3 of us, 3 coaches on staff there. We have Nick, our mechanic, and Nick Bohannon, who helps us out a lot with strength and conditioning and biomechanics type stuff in the training center. But overall, we're not too many of us that work out there. We stay really busy with different lessons, individuals coming in for lessons or group lessons. That's a big thing we've been into lately. We have groups from different parts of the country that they'll sort of get together, 5 to 10 of them, sometimes even more, and pool their money together and make a trip for just a day or 2 to the training center.
Well, I think that's a big misconception too, is that you have to be an elite player or a member of Team USA or to check out the ITRC and take advantage of the coaching staff and all the technology there, but that's in fact not the case.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, like I said, over the last couple of years, our clientele has grown quite a bit, and we have lots of people from all over the country, all over the world really, but especially over the United States here that, like I said, they'll group about 5 to 10 guys. They may all be friends or bowl league together, and when you have groups like that, the price becomes much more economical from a lesson standpoint. And then they come in for a couple days, come in for like a half day one day, a half day the other, or we can tailor the lesson however they want. If they want a couple full days, we do that. And then we're obviously the location of where we are, right next to the Ranger Stadium. Go catch a baseball game in the summertime or tour the facility in the wintertime, and then home of the Cowboys, AT&T Stadium, not too far down the road, less than a mile down the road. So go take a tour of that unbelievable facility. I mean, I always say it's like a spaceship that just landed in the middle of Arlington. It's crazy to look at that thing if people haven't seen how crazy big that is. But yeah, so there's a lot to do. 6 Flags right across the street. So
of course the International
Museum and Hall of Fame as well. Most when groups come in, we'll let them tour that. We'll give them a little break after lunch, and they'll go just right across the way, right across our parking lot there to the International Museum and Hall of Fame and see the history of bowling.
Brian, we're seeing some struggles here in game number 3. The left-hander, Butch Zeller,
yet to strike together there. At the end of the second game, he's really turned it on, but it's one of those things where he's probably just stuck right in between. Doesn't know if he wants to hook it a little more or go a little straighter. And
so a few 7 pins there, and it's just a little tweak that's necessary, perhaps, or do you make a big move? And you have to obviously be confident and brave with your moves, but whatever happened there on that last shot, leaving the 4-6-10, I believe it was. Just struggling here. Got to get him back on board. Troup and Whitney both with 3 in a row here. So guiding this team, and we see our team on 23 falling off a little bit as well. 11-22, 10-87. Not a lot of strikes on the board over that way. So this third game can be tricky. Certainly you see that transition towards the end of game 2. And then it's just a matter of figuring that out, making the right move, and finishing strong. Easier said than done, of course.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the tough part is that they were all hitting the pocket towards the end of that second game, so they didn't want to make drastic adjustments. But all of a sudden, you start making more adjustments, and then you lose the pocket and you split, and before you know it, you're like, man, why didn't I just stick with what I was doing and make adjustments front to back? And that's really where I think the front to back adjustments can pay dividends, as opposed to always making those adjustments laterally, side to side on the lane. Oh, there he goes. Oh, a double crotch chop for the fans at home from Mr. Troup. Is that promoted here? Or?
Well, that was for
Speechless.
you, Guppy, a little bit speechless, but we talked about it. We were going to see some emotion. Kyle Troup certainly leaving it all out there with the 4-bagger, rolling the 10. He is fired up now. Let's see if Ryan Whitney can follow that up as well and maybe try to top Kyle's performance there afterwards. But let's see. They're starting to get excited here. Adam Miller with the big shot there for the double. These guys are number 4 or 5 in the lineup for a reason. They're the heavy hitters. They're talking it through right now. Kyle's giving Ryan some tips. I don't know how well they know each other. Ryan's been all around, and of course he's bowling with this North Carolina group, now living in Texas. But these guys talk an awful lot. They bowl a lot of events when they can.
I'm sure Ryan's been in Dallas as long as I have, and you know, with Kyle only being 22, like you said, that brings up a great point. Don't know how much they've bowled together, but obviously they look like they're communicating well and giving each other adjustments. You know, bowling's a game of, you know, it's ball motion. You know, they can talk. They know what they see. They're both accomplished enough players that they can make the adjustments and talk each other through it, even without really having a long history of knowing each other.
Here's Whitney. He stepped down, reset a little bit. Stepped off. You got to do that sometimes. You know, just put the ball down and walk away and come back and do it all over. There's Whitney going for 4 in a row.
Yep.
And he gets it. And I think it's time for you to go.
I do believe so, young man.
You're getting the hook, so we appreciate you being here today, Brian O'Keefe, Team USA assistant head coach, and going to watch the wife, Shannon O'Keefe, Team USA member, try to get it done at the Women's Championship. Put up some big numbers over there on opening night. So we do appreciate it, and enjoy the opening ceremonies.
Thank you.
And some great bowling.
All right, well, thanks for having me. I'm glad I could sit in and take a look-see, and thanks again for all that you do here, Matt. You're definitely an asset to the organization in Arlington with your great coverage that you have, bringing bowling to everybody at home that did before, never got to see it. So thanks to you and Aaron for doing a wonderful job here, and I will see you tomorrow.
Certainly appreciate the kind words. Brian O'Keefe, Shannon O'Keefe, and Cambridge teams will be on the lanes tomorrow. Check it out on nextbowling.com. And right now we're going to see the end of game number 3 here before the first frame 1 and 2. And this is Matt Canizaro live at the NBS. I'll be right back.
Got the 5 out.
Barely. I had to turn around before I yelled at it earlier. All right, bud. All right.
All right, folks, we're watching the end of game number 3. We're about halfway through here before the first frame 1 and 2. The rest of their group bowling tonight, so those guys checking in to see what's going on here. Some more talented players. Jerry Horn PBA Regional Champion Matt Taylor. Also, William Banks, we saw him take the all events lead here a few years back. So looking forward to this group going well across the board here on both team events today. Looking for a big finish here. They need 13:45 to take the team lead, so it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But certainly a lot of momentum and a good head start on team all events regardless. Ryan Whitney's string comes to an end at 4. He leaves the 4-pin. Kyle Troup still striking here in game 3 with the front 5. Troup with games of 215, 236. Ryan Whitney 215, 256. Whitney with the spare. We had Brian O'Keefe, Team USA assistant head coach, on with us for the first 2 games. A lot of great insight there. Certainly some great thoughts from the right-hander, and his talented teams will hit the lanes tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Right now he's headed over to see Aaron Smith at the Reno Sparks Convention Center for opening night at the USBC Women's Championship. So a lot going on this weekend in Reno. Next week, the X-Bowling Intercollegiate Singles and Team Championships in town. Lucas Wiseman will be with us in the biggest little city for some live streaming. Then, of course, the finals of those events will be on national television. So a lot of excitement coming up here in the next few weeks. And looking for some excitement here, Terry Decker was looking for the 3-bagger, leaves the 10. Here's Ryan Collins looking to make it 5 in a row here in game number 3. Great shot there from Collins. So these guys getting excited here, just looking to put up the biggest number they can. Get the nice prize check and a head start for tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, the first day of doubles and singles at the Women's Championships. And
people from North Carolina said y'all's coverage is terrible.
Them guys are putting unless you do good. I'm just saying.
all right, well, we got some folks in North Carolina not happy with today's coverage. Sorry to hear that. But we do thank everybody for joining us regardless. Big crowd on hand, 2 very talented teams. Our left-hander, Butch Zeller, still without a strike here in game 3. They're talking through it right now. He's looking at the 6'10", Kyle Troup, trying to help him out. Left-hander, always the wild card. If it's not there, it's hard to develop a good look. But he's been fighting through it all day, 193, 224, so 2 pretty decent games for Zeller. Appreciate the kind words in the chat room. We've got a front 9 down on lane 20. Cannot see the gentleman's name. First name is John. But we'll let you know if we have some excitement here Haven't had a 300 in a little while. 5 so far this year. The last one came in the team event. Tim Damrow. Tim now the leader here in regular all events, regular doubles, and team all events. So solid performance there from Tim and the Jansis HI group. Big numbers. 22-28 in all events. 10,363 in team all events. Of course, the number these guys are shooting at now, 35-61 in the team event. The highest score in history. They're not going to get there today, but certainly every pin will help as they march towards that team all events number. It looks like the gentleman on lane 20 has 10 in a row. Normally we'd be down there getting video for Facebook, but can only be in one place at a time. So we'll keep an eye on that from here and let you know how that turns out. Meanwhile, Ryan Whitney continues to strike down here on 31 and 32. Kyle Troup with the front 6. Ryan with 5 out of 6 here in game 3.
I just found a beer. I'll be right back.
So it looks like he got the 11th one. Again, 5 300s this year, 4 of them in the team event. So things on the low side of the building just got pretty quiet as John L., we'll call him, goes for 300 here. And he got it. So we'll have a recap of that on Bull.com later tonight. Ryan Whitney looking on. He rolled the first 300 of the 2012 event in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on the way to a runner-up finish in all events. So perhaps we'll see some more excitement here on 31 and 32 with Kyle Troup front 6. These guys looking at putting up a big number, 1095 and 1121. So strong finish here. And question in the chat room about David Ferguson. Do I remember David Ferguson, who shot 2 300s at the 2006 event in Corpus Christi? I certainly do. Got me out of bed early that day. He bowled on the 7 a.m. squad, bowled 1 in doubles and 1 in singles. And a great performance there. Only one bowler in history with back-to-back 300s at the Open Championships in the singles event. Ron Barr on the way to the 2003 regular singles title. We still see Ron every year here at the Open Championships, but back-to-back 300s and 837 to take home that title. A couple dozen bowlers in tournament history with 2 300s on the championship lanes. So getting 2 in the same year is a big challenge.
Filled ones over here.
Yeah, those
So right now I'm going to check with Jessica Gilgore, our assistant here in Reno, and make sure she's got everything under control as we wrap up game number 3. I'll be right back, but for now enjoy some bowling here before the first frame, 1 and 2. All right, we got everything situated there, and a lot of friendly folks in the building here today as well. So thanks everybody for joining us online and in person. We had a 300 down on lanes 19 and 20. And we have our 50-year guy, John Molnar. And we'll catch up with him here in a minute.
Randy, can we get a re-rack? 32.
Right now we're getting a visit from Bob Udseth, the 2001 regular doubles champ here at the Open Championships. He's over at the Storm Bowlers Journal Championships presented by USBC, helping run things over there. Again, if you want to get a look at the doubles and singles lane condition here at the 2014 Open Championships, that's the place to do it. A few different age and average base divisions. Doubles, singles, multiple doubles even, with up to 4 partners at one time. So take advantage of that. The dual entry, use your same 3-game score for doubles and singles. And more than anything, get your chance to see the doubles and singles pattern before taking your one shot at it here at the USBC Open Championships right now. Turn your attention to lane 32, Kyle Troup working on the front 6, trying to make it 7 in a row. We've seen a few great scores on the live streams in the past. Front 7 for Kyle. Playing for the camera a little bit. Ryan Whitney going to step up, try to make it 6 out of 7. Butch Zeller, the left-hander, also with a strike here in frame number 7, so he's on the board. All of these guys are very talented, and that's why they all come together. They work very hard as a group. Tough break for Ryan Collins after the open frame. 4-6-7. Ryan Whitney going to step back and reset. I think these guys too, more than anything, great friends also. So that certainly helps with the chemistry and the camaraderie. Makes it a lot easier, and they can get through the ups and downs together. Terrific shot by Whitney with the wrap 10. These guys have been around the pocket, most of them all day long, and just some unfortunate carry at times. Again, 10.95, 11.21. It would have taken 13.45 to get to the top spot. We're not going to see a new leader today, but these guys certainly having a good time out here and putting up a good number. Chris Hans also wrapping the 10-pin. No problem for Hans. These guys just need to regroup. Struggling a little bit here in the back half of game 3. Just talk it out. Go out and finish strong. That's all they can do. The rest of the group getting ready to bowl at 7 p.m. Standing behind us. Left-hander. Great shot there from Zeller. It's good momentum right there. Setting it up for Troup and Whitney. Kevin Decker looks like he didn't like that shot to the right, but it made its way back. They created some room earlier in practice and, of course, in the first 2 games. And there you saw it. So that ball, not liking it off his hand, but it made it back for the swish 7. So they certainly created the room they were hoping for. So a lot of folks tuning in, staying with us still. I appreciate it. Kyle Troup giving you something to watch. A little bit of excitement there. The front 8 for the 2-hander. Already had 1 300 on this squad. A lot of folks back home in Texas excited about today's broadcast. Ryan Whitney, a bit of a star in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Let's see if he can get back on track here in frame number 8 after a wrap 10 on the right lane. Nice break there. Gets the 5-7 to go. These guys certainly having a good time here getting loose. Terry Decker with the 4-pin struggle today. 168-203. Kevin Decker 178-202. Matt Ward 214-200. Mike Leviner 223-215. Adam Miller 210-200. And Ryan Collins 215-223. Chris Hans 257-182. Butch Zeller 193-224. Kyle Troup getting better every game, 215-236. Now with the front 8 here, Ryan Whitney also 215-256, and throwing great shots here in game number 3. Adam Miller getting in on the strike action, bringing a little excitement and some high fives to the team here. The rest of the house getting done.
One shot at a time, Chris. Deep breath.
Chris Hans with a pair of doubles here in game 3, and unable to get that third strike, but thinking it through here, getting ready to finish strong. Great shot there from Hans in the 9th frame, setting up a big finish here for both Collins and Hans. Striking in the 9th. The lone left-hander stepping up now, trying to keep his string going. 2 in a row here, his first 2 strikes here in game 3. So 20 guys around wearing the same shirts, cheering them on to a strong finish.
Hey, we got him. Nah, really? Yeah, we do. Oh. Come on, carry. Yeah, booking it.
The Viner getting in on the action. Got a quick hello from Bo Gergen, our 2009 regular singles champ, 2010 Team All Events winner. His brother Rick on that team on lane 23 that's been bowling well all day today. The high side of the National Bowling Stadium, about silent here. Kyle Troup's going to have the place to himself, working on the front 8, looking for 9 in a row. They certainly are having a good time here. Kyle, a 7-time PBA Regional Champion, 2012-13 PBA South Region Player of the Year. He leaves the 6-pin. Very unusual for a right-hander, so the string comes to an end. Kyle making just his 2nd USBC Open Championships appearance. Made his debut here at the National Bowling Stadium last year. Shot 556 in teams, 700 in doubles, 687 in singles for 1943. Collins going to be the first to finish things up here with the strike in the 10th for the double.
Good shot, Gary Coleman.
That was for Horton Nation, party of 10.
Ryan Whitney giving a shout out to Ronnie Horton. Just a few teams left across the center. But these guys have the high side all to themselves here. The National Bowling Stadium this year split. Lanes 1 through 64 being used for the Open Championships, and lanes 69 through 78 divided and being used for the Storm Bowlers Journal Championships. Downstairs, 10 more lanes, the track showcase lanes, used for practice sessions on the team pattern, and of course the Columbia 340 frame game. Lots of competitive opportunities here at the NBS this year for bowlers of all ages, skill levels, average levels.
right, run it down. Down on the 10th. Let's go.
Collins gonna finish things off here. Leaves the 10 pin, but he doubles in the 10th. 235 for Mr. Collins. Ryan Collins 673 series here today. And Terry Decker's going to start things off in the final frame for before the first frame, number 2. Chris Hans working on a strike. Gets the first one in the 10th. Hans with 257 and 182. Terry Decker 168, 203. Hans trying to make it 3 in a row. Great shot there. Hans a DBH staffer.
We got a $1,000 bet on this game. We're gonna strike and beat him.
Terry Decker mixes them up for a double. Nine pin goes late for Hans. Big finish for him. Last 4 for 236. He's at 675.
Medium, large. Tater man hit some money. Yeah, let's put that in the pockets. Yeah, he's a G. Let's go.
571 for Terry Decker. Appreciate everybody staying with us here. This is a 3 p.m. team event. Matt Canizaro live at the NBS. Terrible break there for Zeller. Cannot catch a break here.
Doesn't like left-handers. Where's Ric Flair when you need one?
Cannot throw it any better than that. Zeller with the spare for 191 and a 608 series, grinding it out on the left side. Kevin Decker is going to finish things off on 32. That's 548 for Kevin Decker. Kyle Troup had the front 8 before leaving at 6-pin. Still got 279 out there. And he's getting awfully quiet here at the MBS as he trips the 4-7.
I gotta give him something to watch. I did. I feel like Hans.
Yeah, we do.
Actually, the same exact shot was just going.
All 10 of them.
Here's the math guy talking again. The same exact shot. Right.
Curse words and dirty guys will mess up.
These guys already over 3,300 with Troup and Whitney still to go. It's 245. So Troup will be in the 260s here. Matt Ward's going to finish things off before the first frame, number 2. 6 on the fill. .208. 622 series.
Matt, good bowling, buddy.
Kyle Troup finishes with 269 for 720. Everybody else officially done, so they do have the place to themselves now. If you missed any of today's broadcast, you can go back and watch the archive version. YouTube.com/BowlTV. Today's telecast, as well as all of the ones so far from here at the 2014 USBC Open Championships. A lot of great videos out there also. Open Championships has its own playlist, so don't miss a minute. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get the updates and notifications. Also, find us on Facebook, Sport of Bowling USBC, and the official OCWC Facebook page. Lots of great information out there. You'll see a lot of great things on bowl.com, but also a lot of little tidbits on Facebook and Twitter at USBC Matt, and at USBC Aaron.
Flex coming through. What's up, bud? Run over by the flex. I got you, man. Can I get a free cup of water? $3.
Great shot there from Whitney. Heather, you can't say these guys don't have fun, because they are having a great time here and still well within their 3 hours. You do get 3 hours from the time you leave the squad room.
I got one for y'all on this one. Wait.
We had a 50-year presentation today. John Molnar, the 170th member of the 50-year club, so that took a few minutes. We had a 300 game on this squad. We'll have those recaps for you on bowl.com. And for those of you wondering where Aaron Smith is, he is over at the Reno Sparks Convention Center. Opening ceremonies at the Women's Championships just got underway. You can hashtag that on Twitter, USBC Women's. And they have some webcams over there if you want to stop in on the women's page and check out the opening ceremony.
I don't know what else.
Mike Leviner finishes with 642. Ryan Whitney 238 for 709. 1169 finish here for before the first frame. Number 1, 33.85. So we'll certainly keep an eye on them for team all events tomorrow. 33.85. Right now good for 4th place overall. The current leader, Motion Plus Lanes from Cudahy, Wisconsin, 35.61. Of course, the highest score in tournament history, followed by 35.14 and 34.99. So these guys settling nicely into 4th place. Great run today, 33.85. Now we'll let Adam Miller finish things up here for the companion team. Quick rundown for before the first frame. Number 1, Ryan Collins, 673. Chris Hahn, 675. The lone left-hander, Butch Zeller, 608. Kyle Troup, 720. Ryan Whitney, 709.
So my wife just sends me this message. Your hair looks great. Your hair looks great. Ask him if my hair.
We'll have the final shot of today's team event. Adam Miller, all 10 for 225 and a 985. Sorry, 1005 finish. And 3018 for the first frame, number 2. Adam Miller, 635. Mike Leviner, 642. Matt Ward, 622. Kevin Decker, 548. Terry Decker, 571. 3018 and 3385. Good for 4th place overall here, 2014 USBC Open Championships. We'll keep an eye on these guys for tomorrow during doubles and singles. They bowl at 7 a.m. Right now, I'm going to shut things down here and head over to the Reno Sparks Convention Center to catch up with Aaron Smith and opening ceremonies at the women's. So a lot of great news here at the Open Championships today. Check it out on Bowl.com later tonight or tomorrow. And we'll be back with you again soon. To find a live stream schedule, just go to the Open Championships page on Bowl.com, and in the information section, you can find all kinds of great information, the schedule, and more. So look for that, and we'll be back with you again soon. I appreciate everybody joining us today. Brian O'Keefe was with us earlier. Team USA assistant head coach. A lot of great insight today. So, folks, that's going to do it from the National Bowling Stadium. This is Matt Canizarov. That's the news for now. We'll see you on the lanes.